Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, place about games, friends getting better. This is a packed, gosh darn it, episode. You can't swear this early. Hello, everybody. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Jeff Marchiafava.
That's me.
We're joined by Kelsey Lewin.
I didn't get the flashlight memo.
This is a good shtick. This does good. We're also joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Kelsey, it's my Alan Wake bit, is that I have a flashlight.
Okay.
And then
everyone thought concert.
Those who know, you know.
Yeah, Janet was on top of it.
Because me and Kyle we have the same affliction. Also, hello.
That's
I'm
why
here.
I turned into an elephant right before this podcast. 'Cause I'm more excited to talk about Mario Wonder.
That's right. And I'm going to have a big spit bubble cut out of my mouth because we're talking about Alan Wake 2. We're talking about Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Then we're swapping in some new folks or just adding to the pile of people here on this podcast. We're going to be talking about Marvel Spider-Man 2 once more for the people who haven't talked about it.
You didn't introduce everybody. Did you mean to do that?
Janet introduced herself, kind of. I think we hit it all.
I didn't say my name because I thought that would be weird.
Oh,
I'm
Janet. This is Janet Garcia. Janet, what's your middle name, Janet?
I don't have a middle name.
Stylish.
Oh, you can make it whatever you want.
That's right.
Free.
Yeah, free space, yeah.
No face, but what we
you
make.
don't have to pay to get a new one, so you just make it like Danger or Business or something cool. You know?
Business is cool. Hey, everybody, Marvel Spider-Man 2.
Jeff Marchiafava's here. You did not introduce Jeff Marchiafava.
Yes, I did.
No,
He was the first one.
Kyle, why are you?
What are you doing? This is a bad podcast now.
I'm sorry.
We're also going to be talking about City Skylines 2, and Kelsey Lewin's here, everybody.
You already introduced me.
I know, now I'm just sabotaging the mic.
I'm here too.
What if we just kept introducing each other for the next 30
You're
minutes?
also
New show
joined
plus.
by Ben Hansen.
Oh, hello, I'm here too. We're also joined by Jack. Middle name, Box Party Pack, last name 10. We're going to be talking about him later on in this episode.
Hell
then
yeah.
Leo wants to talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the entire series, and we said, yay. Yay, that sounds good. And then back after the show, we have some great community questions people submitted over there on Patreon. Okay, so many angles, so many possibilities for this episode. First things first, Alan Wake 2. It is out on Friday. Every preview for this game has been people saying it is real GOTY contender. People are red hot on it. Now, full disclosure, only Kyle and Janet have been playing it so far, and neither of you all have finished it around halfway through. Is that where you're at roughly here?
I'm halfway.
I think I'm
Yeah,
further than
Kyle's
that.
definitely further than halfway. He's probably like
Okay.
75. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's one of those games where characters are now saying like, "We can end this now." And at the point I'm at, I'm like,
Classic.
I don't.
Yep.
It's like I don't know what that means really. This feels like a false ending, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I'm where it's like I still have time to end this. Like that's where I'm at, you know. It's not too late. I'm like I'm not that far into the game.
And the game is...
Okay. I've been dreading this conversation a little bit because I have not
can't
really. I haven't sort of cemented my thoughts. They're still floating around, as you stated. I haven't finished the game.
Floaty early.
But I've been a bit underwhelmed. I'm somewhat disappointed. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, Janet, where are you coming in so far here?
I'm coming in definitely a bit hotter than Kyle, but I totally agree with the lightly drain the conversation because I don't know really where I stand fully yet. I do think it's a great game. So that's one spot I can like pretty comfortably plant my flag in personally. Like I think it's a great video game. I think it's really novel, and I think that's probably the secret sauce is really the weirdness that is Remedy. Without spoilers, I hit a part in the game last night where I was like grinning ear to ear. I'm like, this is so out there and funny and strange and cool. I think Kyle knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's one of my favorite moments of the year, which is like where I'm at with this game. You know, it's
absolutely.
up and down.
I think there's going to be a lot of love for the game in how bizarre and funky and interesting it is. But I think where the game sort of underwhelms me is in the core mechanics. Like the act of exploring and fighting is not as good as I've experienced in other similar games.
Control.
But the wrapping is no, it's not. I don't think it's as good as Control. But but they're also a really different style of games. But even when I think of like exploring in like a Resident Evil or whatever, like I'm like, putting things together isn't really that actually intriguing. But the ride it takes you on is like a really compelling Netflix show, and that is kind of what hooks me in. But
Okay.
Kyle, where do you kind of land on the what aspect is sort of not quite delivering for you? Because it just seemed like you're also intrigued by the funkiness of it.
The weirdness, the Remedy weirdness that they've like almost patented at this point is the part that I love, and it's just so strange often. But the thing is like there are ways that the story is being told that sort of rub me the wrong way, and like when you're playing as Alan, like a big part of the game is like you don't know what's going on, and sometimes this door goes somewhere else, and it like which is. There's a really difficult line to walk there of like this is cool and interesting and I'm all out of whack and I don't know what's going on and being in a video game being like I don't know what's going on and it's frustrating and I don't know where to go and things aren't working and I'm stuck on this puzzle way longer than I need to be. And it's also a game, and this is like a video game thing. This is not like a Remedy thing or an Alan Wake thing, but it is like the king of like, oh, I got to go to get to this door. Oh, I walk up to the door and the power's out. Okay, now I got to go down to the basement and I got to find a generator. Oh, well, now I have to find a fuse for the generator. I've found so many freaking fuses. Right. It's just like, it's like the thing that you need is right there in front of you, and all the obstacles that are in the way feel arbitrary. And it's like, and a lot of video games do that, and the trick is like doing it and still being compelling. And Alan Wake, I think, is falling short in a lot of those instances. That's
interesting. And just to be clear, setting the table, like you're a big fan of that first one. You really loved it, but it's been a long time.
I love the original, and and like one of the things which I know Janet is not as much a fan of this, but like I really like the combat in the original Alan Wake, and like the flashlight gun combat, and like another thing about Alan Wake 2 is like you're not really encouraged to engage in the combat a lot. There's not really a lot of incentive for firing off your gun. Like you're better suited just kind of running, and the game is structured in such a way that it allows you to do that, which I think was a mistake.
So
I like the combat, but I'm just not engaging with it as much as I want to even.
So it's more RE2 remake than RE4. Is that a weird?
Yes. They take a lot of lessons from Resident Evil. A lot of lessons. It's closer to Resident Evil 2 than I expected, but I think they're just not as executed as well as Resident Evil 2.
Okay.
Mechanically. But then there's the weird stuff is so good. Like we can't like explain it because it would be a spoiler, but like the live action stuff and the CGI stuff and the weird stuff that happens and like the sort of self-referential stuff and like the larger canon of Alan Wake is all fun and cool. And the game looks great. That's another thing to point out.
Yeah.
When it works, that's the other thing that I've been running into is a lot of bugs. Like to the point of like having to load old checkpoints and close the game and reset it.
Ooh,
and like,
on PS5?
PS5 is what I'm playing.
I'm also playing on PS5. I haven't hit as many technical walls as I think you have, Kyle, but you've also played a lot more. I've hit a couple though, like one where like the frame rate dropped really low for a hot second. I'm playing in performance mode. I don't know if that makes a difference. Maybe you're in quality, where one favors. Yeah. So that's been fine for me, but that mileage will vary. I could just be the exception, and for all I know, everyone's gonna say that they had like a lot of bugs. But
the thing that it's tough because there's like honestly like a crash, like whatever, I can deal with that. Sure. If the checkpoint's fine, that doesn't really bug me. But the thing that I'm running into is like I'll be like looking through a menu with Saga and like putting things on the wall, and like all of a sudden I can't exit that menu.
Yes, that happened to me too. I probably hit that like at least 3 different times of like I went to like travel somewhere and the screen's like just dark, and I'm like, I think the game broke, and then I had to like close it out. Nothing that impeded like progress, but a couple scary moments. I think for the combat for me, I mean, you can avoid it. I'm unloading that clip all the time, Kyle. Like, I don't know about you. Like, I get that you can just like walk around like the shadowy people, because again, it's in that vein of if you are all familiar with Alan Wake, it's like that's kind of how it works. It's like you use the flashlight, you can kind of expose them or stun them and then shoot them. Like I'm unloading like all my clips. One thing I really want to compliment about the game, and probably my favorite thing outside of just the funky wrapping and story, is the and this might be like more of a video game preference thing, but I love the upgrade system in this game. I'm a big fan of when exploration leads to mechanical upgrades and not just like more lore. Like I like lore, but like lore's not gonna pay the bills. You know what I mean? Like,
no limits.
Let's get a little bit beefed up. And even though it's not like, I don't know, a super combat focused game, like you can find these collectibles and then upgrade like either your weapon, or as Alan, you can upgrade sort of your I don't know, inherent, like his things is like words of like power or words of like gun or words of whatever, and it's all related to like something, like maybe it's your health, maybe it's your clip, maybe it's like, you know, how much health you restore in like a safe space or whatever, and you get that by like finding these little collectibles in the world. And one really nice touch, like I think this game is full of, everything is so like narratively well thought out, like even down to when you're Saga and you get an upgrade, like you're like the shotguns reload twice as fast. Alan writes that into the story and like narrates over it. He's like, suddenly Saga was loading her clip faster than ever before, and stuff like that is.
As his editor,
really
I might be
cool.
like, this seems unnecessary to include in the book, but what am I? I don't know anything about writing.
I'm still sort of, it's all swirling around in my head. I was like genuinely like nervous to talk about it today because like I'm not sure where I land yet because I'm still working on the game, but like I've had a lot of moments of just being like, this is not working for me, and that makes me sad. Yeah.
Oh God!
I have a question for you, Kyle. How do you feel about the like the inherent detective mystery nature of the game, especially from like a mechanical perspective?
So a big thing that Saga does, which by the way, Saga is like the big highlight for me. I really prefer playing as Saga, which again is something else that surprised me.
A little more straightforward, even like.
Yeah, it's definitely like less.
Yeah, but
at
like
least in the beginning, I don't know if something else happens.
It's a weird fantasy setting. I totally acknowledge that. But like one of the ways that Saga like solves like the mysteries, so to speak, is she just sort of sits and thinks to herself for a few minutes. And like suddenly she knows things inexplicably. And like I acknowledge it's like, oh, that's this is the world that it's in. She has this weird power. There's even context for why she can do that. But as like the person, you know, enjoying the story, it's really unsatisfying for someone to just be like, I met these people. You know what? I bet they have something. And then you are like, they have evidence they're withholding from me. And then she confronts them like, you have evidence. And they're like, I do. It's like,
I do.
Saga,
You got me, Saga. I do.
Okay, you just know that all of a sudden.
Yes,
so
like,
it's like
I had the same, like my light leading question. I had the same thing where and again, you're further than me. Maybe they do contextualize it further into the game, but I'm also, for context too, I'm about halfway through when you count out like the trophy list missions.
Okay.
And I'm 10 hours in. I'm playing pretty slowly because I really want to get like as many of the collectibles and things as I can and like do all the optional stuff. But yeah, like it's the interrogation system, which if you've heard the previews, you know, you're also familiar with, where you can get like these pictures of, you go to the mind place, which is kind of like a little cabin in her mind, and you can look at a photograph and you'll get at different points, different like keywords will pop up. It'll be something like Ben podcast, and then it's like, okay, you can now ask Ben about the podcast because maybe you opened up that dialogue line. These are all things that are very explicitly telegraphed to you. Like you always know when there's a new thing to look at in your mind palace, like an icon pops up in the bottom left corner, like it's very clear. But yeah, I'm with you, Kyle. The and obviously it's like suspension of disbelief video game stuff, but I feel like it's the only thing that's doesn't really feel like it makes sense in the world. Like I get that, like that's just what they did for the game, but it is very like somehow it's like, oh, I just know this. It's like, I'm not going to tell you. Let me ask them again. 74. I think it happened in 74. And it's very like answers whispered in your ear in an artsy way, but then when you come back to life, it's very like, it's so down to earth that it's
like
kind of dull almost.
I buy it in the context of the world. I don't see it as like this is bad writing. I don't feel like it's like that. Like I said, I'll buy all into that suspension of disbelief. I'm just saying, like, as a person who enjoys a good murder mystery, like it's just not satisfying for someone to just know things.
One thing that's a challenge here, I was like talking about this last night when I was sort of trying to think through my thoughts, like after having spent 2 days with the game. It's tough because they want to make it, which I think they picked the right choice here. But I think in any video game, I played a lot of games that have you gathering clues and solving a mystery, and almost none of those games actually let you gather the clues and solve the mystery. It is like, you gather it, but they kind of put it together for you. Even like playing, like way back in the day, I did a one that I can disclose, a mock review for Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, and that was very much a mystery game. But it was like, they kind of let you put together yourself, but they don't really let you like leave until you really get the right answer.
Right.
So like, and this is somewhat similar, where you're gathering the clues. And again, we talked about this during the preview cycle, where like you place them where they go, and like you kind of have to. And like I don't even really read the clues, if I'm being honest. I just kind of place them naturally, where I kind of glance at, okay, this is related to this, and I'll plop it somewhere on the board. So all the deduction is done for you. But if they didn't do that, I feel like the game would be mad hard. So like I understand. I agree with what they did, but I do think that in a sense you are more along for the ride than you are like a more inherent active participant. I think the only game that ever pulled off deduction that made sense was Outer Wilds, and even that game was like a little too hard for me to begin with. Like I don't got the big brain for it. I know like people like Sarah like stand that game, and the further I get from that game, the more I respect what it did because of how hard what it set out to achieve was. But that's just something I want to like toss out there, because I feel like that is inherently it is a detective mystery
right,
game,
it's the core idea.
You're not really, you're doing it, but you're not really fully doing it, which I think is fine, but it's something to be aware of.
Yeah. So my only perception of this game, other than the previews, was Jacob Geller, who's also playing it. He just jumped in Slack and said, oh boy, did the community choose the right game for the deepest dive. Like, oh, this is going to be such an interesting one to talk about in a really thorough way. Which
I think he's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
there's a lot to talk about in the game.
All right.
And like we said earlier, like Jana was referencing a specific moment. It was like this colossal high for me, where I was like, this is incredible. Like I hope there's more stuff like this in the game, and there's going to be great talking points. Yeah. But I think the big sort of drawback for me is like on a mechanical level is where I'm fighting, like literally sometimes fighting with it so much, where I'm like, it's also a lot of like, I need 3 numbers. Let me look around the environment and find 3 numbers.
Okay.
See, that's the thing, and I agree with you, because you are right. It is that, and it's like the thing I told my partner was, this is the kind of game, like as far as the low level puzzles. So there's like obviously overarching stuff of like, we have to find out who did this, or like investigate this area. But there's also the classic, there's a lockbox and there's 3 numbers near you, like Kyle mentioned, to open it, or sometimes a key, or like whatever, right? And then there's also like little optional puzzles where it's like you can come across
here's
this and
here's
solve
a solution to one that my wife helped me solve.
Come on, Kyle, don't put that on the screen. Are you out of your mind?
This one, the end of the game is just right on there.
I like because I have like a love-hate relationship with them, because they're repeated a lot, but they are all pretty interesting and unique, and like and are more than like someone scrawled letters in blood on the wall and you just come across them. They're more complicated than that in a positive way. Sure.
And the thing I was going to mention was it's sort of, I really like those puzzles, because like so if you're like a little too smart, you'll be like, this is okay, come on, man, it's like the 4 on the tree, and like I am smart enough to find the 4 on the tree, but only barely. And that's what I like personally, where I love that, like, is it this? Okay, it takes me like a tiny bit to solve some of them, and I really like that. That's like a game obsession I have. The Saga wandering the woods looking for what is literally like a lunchbox collectible is one of the collectibles. Like, I live for that. Like, it's funny because it doesn't look like interesting gameplay. It's literally like my partner will walk by and I'm playing the game and I'm in the same woods and I'm like slowly combing the edges of them, like opening the map, really. But I really like that. So there definitely is, similar to how I feel about a lot of Resident Evil games, because this is still inherently survival horror. There is a coziness to it, and like a cool, like, repetitive exploration to it. And I do think, for better or worse, because the combat isn't like so in your face all the time, it does allow you really to take your time and explore and spend time. Like, you're not constantly waiting, like something's not going to constantly jump out at you. It's like actually kind of rare to be in a more heated combat-y area. So you do have the freedom to really like take your time with the environment. And I think, like a lot of their titles, and by a lot I mean just Control, because it's the only other one I played, Remedy does a really good job like committing to creating, I think, really affecting and detailed environments. And also, like, unrelated, shouts to the sound team for this game, besides the music thing that I was alluding to before. Like, there's some really incredible sound design, and in general horror lives on sound design, but there's really, really great, like, I went to this one sequence while I was walking through like a train cart, and there's like all these guttural, just like really graphic screams. And like my partner was in the kitchen, like, oh my God, like what's going on? Like they really, and nothing's really happening on screen. It's kind of like a weird, like mind bendy thing, but like they really do some great things, I think, with the sound
Okay.
in this game. So I always just want to compliment that. Like, I'm always keeping an eye out for that
Sure.
throughout the year as I play things, and I think they did a great job.
Alan Wake 2, everybody. We are doing the deepest dive into this experience. We'll let everybody else finish it, coalesce their thoughts a little bit more for how this thing is shaping up overall. But we're going to be talking about this game in the best, most thorough way possible. If you're looking for a thorough game club format for Alan Wake 2, please join us. If you jump in on Patreon at the $2 tier, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, you can submit comments that we'll read during our discussion. If you jump in at the $5 tier, you unlock the podcast version of these huge discussions. Otherwise, they'll be up on YouTube for everybody if you want to check that out. But it's going to be myself, Jeff Marquez-Fava. How you feeling, dude?
I'm possibly even more excited now.
Knowing that it's like an uneven, weird thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
And also, it's not a 100-hour game, which I desperately need more of.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, we got you covered there.
I don't know yet,
Yeah.
to be clear.
I suppose that's
I guess
true.
technically, can you imagine like the
Question
last 3
mark?
chapters are 8 hours?
So it's going to
Have
be...
more, man.
now
In other
in
games.
50 hours.
So
Oh my
Jeffem,
gosh.
it's going to be Sarah Pazorski, it's going to be Haley McLean, who's coming in red hot in the Alan Wake franchise, and Leo
I can't
Vader.
wait for Haley to do this.
I know. I think it's going to be fun.
You guys have all played Control, right? Everyone?
Yes. Yeah. In
Yes.
fact, actually, this Thursday, Haley and Leo are going to be streaming the Control DLC that
good.
ties into Alan Wake, and that'll be up on MinnMax's YouTube channel if you want a recap of that before you jump into this thing. But here's the thing. If you want to help support MinnMax on Patreon and Independent Games Media, we just hit our 4th anniversary thanks to everybody's support. But we have an extra incentive for you if you want to jump in, even at that $2 tier, to help support the Game Club, the deepest dive for Alan Wake 2, where if you support us on Patreon now through Wednesday, November 1st, if you jump in even at that $2 tier on Patreon, we will send you a free Steam code for Oxenfree 2. Which thematically, spooky game, narrative-heavy game, fits perfectly with Alan Wake 2. So if you jump in, support The Deepest Dive, or support MinnMax on Patreon in general, before or on November 1st, we will just send you a code for Oxenfree 2 on Steam. So special shout out to that team for making that possible. Greatly appreciate it. And let's tackle Alan Wake 2 with The Deepest Dive, everybody. Hey, just for another game where sound design is incredibly important, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, everybody. Wonder! Have we all been playing this thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Kelsey, how much have you played? We didn't even talk about it, even though I
Has
just
Jeffem
saw
played
you in
All Things
Seattle.
Frozen?
Less than I have wanted to at this point. I'm only through 2 castles.
Okay.
But like, I'm really, really enjoying it and just trying to squeeze it in as much as I can.
Nice. Yes, I also just finished the second castle. So this is also a take for me that's pretty early. But yeah, Jeff, you've been playing this too, right?
I finished up World 4 last night.
Okay.
So I'm like 2/3 of the way through.
I am
think.
very curious about your take because am I remembering this correctly that Mario World is your favorite game of all time?
Super Mario World. It's up there.
Okay.
Certainly.
All right. Poser, fake gamer.
But that's
boy.
your favorite Mario
What is your-
game.
It's my favorite Mario game, yes, for sure.
Okay. And then Link to the Past is your favorite of all time?
No, it changes. Sometimes I
What is
say
it- what is it today?
Tetris, sometimes I say
What are you
Link to
saying
the
today?
Past, you know.
Okay. Just say Link to the Past.
Yeah, I'll say Super Mario World today.
Wow. All right. So
Okay.
he's coming in hot.
Oh, got a little
not?
promotion today. They're gonna be very
right.
excited at Nintendo.
Janet, how much did you
Basically,
play?
whatever game we're talking about, I'll just tie something into that. As my
Oh,
favorite.
classic. And then people are gonna be like, I feel like I really like what Jeffem has to add. You know, he's always on the ball. I finished the first castle and I'm like halfway through the next world towards that second castle.
Okay. Nice. And then Kyle, also early-ish?
Yeah, same as Janet. I think almost exactly.
Okay.
First castle and then partway through the next.
It's the
area,
Alan
the
Wake
clouds.
connection, even though we didn't.
That's it. All right, Jeffem, I'm curious to hear from you because it's full disclosure. I'm not a huge 2D Mario guy, super fan here, but I hear like the hardcore
Same.
Mario fans out there. A lot of people are like this is the true successor to World, and so I'm curious where you're at on that level of hype going into this thing because the praise that this game has been getting has freaked me out, and so going into it, I almost feel like it's not fair to the game. But how are you feeling about Mario Wonder at this point?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. It is, and it For the reasons, I guess, that I enjoyed Super Mario World so much, which is that everything in it feels new to me, and and for so long it has felt like, especially the 2D Mario games have just kind of been. I don't want to say rehashes because I guess they add like cat suits and whatnot. But it's like when I see 2D Mario games for a long time. Also, there was that weird chunk of 2D Mario games that I just didn't really love the look when it was like, okay, now he's 3D, but you're still playing a 2D game, and it's the new series. The visual style was just kind of
new Super Mario Bros. That are now very old.
That's right.
Yes.
They're renaming them officially. They're all old now.
Yeah.
Also, to be clear, cats were added for a 3D Mario.
Yeah, Jeff,
let's make that
your
clear,
Mario
okay?
fandom is falling apart. That's your favorite
honestly,
game, dude? Come on.
It all just,
Also, I like the cats.
Yeah, I love the cats.
Oh,
and
love the cats.
The
Pro
cats
cat.
are fine.
Except for the dive. I'm not going to lie. That dive was like really... Who did that on purpose? Because I think we all killed ourselves by accident. doing that cat dive.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I clearly know nothing about the cats. But this is the first one where it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously you're gonna still see, the classic Mario enemies and whatnot, but so much of it is new, and it feels like it's so above and beyond. Like the entire premise of the game just being like, okay, every level's gonna have a weird gimmick.
Yeah.
And then within that, most of them are going to have a secret that's going to unlock another like one-off weird gimmick is so good. And then on top of that, it's like, oh, and let's just create like all new enemies that are also super weird and super different mechanically from what we've seen from other games. And so that has been like kind of the high I've been riding throughout the entire game. The only drawbacks for me are the levels, understandably, I guess, feel a little shorter than like a Mario World level would be. And half of that is like every other level is, like just a very short activity of like 30 seconds or whatever. And then it also, from what I've played so far, it's easier than Mario, which, to be fair, I played Super Mario World when I was a kid too, but there hasn't been a lot of like pain points for me, which makes it sound like it's a bad thing, but it hasn't been particularly challenging. Like when I get to floating ship, one of the like floating Bowser ships, it's like that was fun, but it doesn't fill me with the same like, oh boy, here we go, like.
But I think you get that
challenging.
You get that, oh boy, here we go, from just the amount of variety for like a little badge challenges and stuff. Like it is wild to have a Mario game where they're showing the star difficulty level on there, and it's like, okay, I know this music level where the music gets faster and faster as you jump along, like this one's going to be surprisingly tough. So I felt like even if some of the levels aren't completely haymakers for my body, I feel like that is where the challenges have come through so far, at least, is in the kind of weird one-offs.
Yeah, I feel like still difficulty wise, it's like 10% is actually really challenging for me, and then the rest is like, I mean, and it's all fun, 100% of it is fun, but it's just, I have felt a bit like a tourist just kind of going through each stop, enjoying it, and then it's like, all right, on to the next thing.
As someone who didn't...
I also wonder, I mean, we're all kind of...
You wonder?
I wonder, yeah. Thank you. I almost didn't catch that. I assume those like 3-star difficulty ones get more frequent as you go along. I mean, most of us are still fairly early here, so
yeah.
I mean, I've seen a couple that have been difficult, but surely towards the end, there's more of those.
There is an area that's like all difficult stages, which I haven't done yet. I've been putting it off, and so I haven't done those yet. But just like general and like I totally understand it, because Super Mario World was probably too hard for like the target audience, which I was back in the day. And so it's like I don't fault them for it.
And it's like, how are you ever going to build that character? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be, plenty of endgame stuff, though. That's going to be
I was
difficult.
playing thinking of some kids crying, though, because there are some things that I think, I'm like, oh, I'm having a hard time, and I'm like almost 30, so I don't know.
Sorry,
is everyone playing like alone? Like, what's y'all setup for the game? Because it's multiplayer, so I'm curious if anyone is digging into that.
I played a couple levels with my kid.
Okay.
Yeah, I only have tried the 4-player and would not recommend.
Really?
I got 4-player stories as well because I did the 4-player.
Wait, what's going on? But you're not like bumping into each other anymore, but it's still just too chaotic for its own good?
So, well, I don't want to start. I want to at least quickly give my like general thoughts.
Sure,
because,
sure.
Like, you know, I don't want to go straight. So my story with Wonder, and I think that's also like why I haven't played more of it, is I'm playing with some of my family. So I have my partner Isaiah, and I invited my brother over, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's like all play together. And you know, we did that, and it was fair and fine. I do think the game starts a little bit slow in terms of being interesting. It's funny because same as you, Ben, like I heard like the buzz online. I'm like, okay, everyone like really loves this game. Like we'll see how it is. One buzz point I heard like on my like social media timeline was the singing piranha plants.
Right.
And then when I got there, I was like, that's it? Like,
oh,
y'all
really? It was
hyped
too
this
hyped up.
Like,
that's the
y'all
worst.
acted like
That's why social media is trash, Janet, because the rest of us just got to experience that and be like, you know, it's early on. It's like the second level they throw that out there. And it's like, okay, this is like a tone setting. This is the tone they want to set. It's a delightful little thing. But the idea of being disappointed by singing piranha plants, just take Twitter and everything else off your phone.
Well, here's the thing. And maybe I'm just more
pure joy if you did not expect it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I didn't read anything about this
Okay.
game before I started playing it, and I loved it. But I don't know, like don't tell people about a cool level. Just let them experience it.
Well, I thought, okay, here's the thing. I still, it sounds so negative, but I'm like, I still blame the game. I don't blame the internet because when I've gotten buzz like that too for other like the Van Gogh level, everyone talked about that. And when I played it, I was like, oh, this is from a different game. I was like, oh yeah, this is really cool. But like, so I was kind of like, oh, okay, like this is not that. Like I expected, when I think music levels in a platformer, like Sackboy: A Big Adventure, like knocked that out of the park.
Sure.
Rayman knocked that out of the park.
Rayman absolutely is the go-to.
So when
yeah.
I was like, y'all popping for this? Like it's cute, but like who cares? Anyway, so
Yeah,
I get through that part. The game really starts to come alive, I think, after those first few levels, and you kind of, you know, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on too, like the fact that there's core direct in your face tutorials in a Mario game is like, oh, this is like different, because normally they bake this in directly to level design more so than like like when they show you the badges, they're like, here's how to use the hat and stuff like that.
It is weird, yeah.
But I really started to enjoy it a lot as it got cooking, you know, as you started to see the ways they play with the Wonder Seed and changing the levels. I'm happy to see so far. Like one of my fears, like when I started it, was that a lot of the fun would be based on, and now you have to run really fast. And I'm like, I don't really want to run fast because I want to like look around the level. I think they have a really cool mix of that. I really warmed up to the side stuff Jeff was talking about with like the really quick 30-second levels. Like I think those can be quite fun. Mm-hmm. So I was really like the game started cooking and I was having a great time. I was like, okay, and all of us were having a good time. Like Isaiah, my brother, like we all have, you know, slightly different opinions, but like we're all having fun. We did the our highlight was, I forget the name of the level, but it's the one with like they're like the dinosaur looking things, and it's like one of the 4 or 3-star difficulties, and you like ride them. It's like a train.
Yep.
That goes through the sky.
Yep. Is it the Zabapos, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, like we like died a bunch at that and like had such a fun time like trying to problem solve it and be like, okay, well, like, no, you stand in the back of the area and then like I'll cover this part, and it's like, oh, hit the P switch. It's like, okay, no, all right, you know, it was that classic fun cooperative moment. It was dope. It was great. And then, and I'm sorry for listening to this, Eddie, because it's nothing personal. My friend Eddie came over. He's like, oh, I'm like, can I still come through? I was like, yeah. It goes up to 4, man. Like, come on through. Eddie comes through, and whoo, we get to 4 people. The life is sucked out of the room. It goes from being a really great game. Like, I do think, I guess if I had to like couch it somewhere, like I'm liking it a lot. I don't think I'm as hot as some people are, but I'm enjoying it. And I think it's a great Mario game, a good Mario game. Cool. Yeah. Oh my God, you get to 4. It is unplayable. It is everything wrong with it comes out. It is an unplayable.
What are you talking about? This is just Eddie that seems like a mess.
Jeff,
what could possibly change?
Back me up on this. We can go back and forth. I had the camera just, you can't like, I feel like throwing up playing it. Like the camera goes everywhere. It's like almost unplayable at 4, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I had a bunch of my wife's siblings over, and we were playing Jackbox, which we'll get to in this episode. We promise.
I did the opposite. I played half.
We were having super fun time, and I was like, all right, we should play some Mario because, you know, we got this Mario game. I want to talk about it. We put that on, and it's just like it sucked all the joy out of the room. Like everyone was just kind of quiet. I mean, part of it is just that the camera follows one person, and I can't, like, I don't think it's really zoomed in more on Mario, like on a character than previous Mario games. But it's like, I don't know if it's just the amount of, verticality or whatever, how much you move around in levels and how much the level moves around with you, that you were constantly leaving people off the screen, and then they turn into ghosts and they kind of have to fly back in. And it's just like, it's not built to try and shepherd 4 people through a level together. And aside from the ghost mechanism, it's not doing anything to try and help facilitate that.
There's also like levels that are just inherently really just become extremely difficult to play at 4. And the reason you can get away with it, I think, at 3 is, especially if you have like, solid players that like are, comfortable and capable of playing like this kind of game. It's like, okay, we all know how to like get around. It's fine. There's like a small enough group of us that you don't really notice the camera stuff as deeply. I think probably the magic number for co-op would be 2 people.
Sure.
I think 2 is perfect. I think 3, I didn't have a problem with it. 4, I would not recommend. There was literally a level that would have been really cool if I had played it alone. It was like one of the mini ones. And the mini ones are kind of like different challenges that you sort of run into. So this one was all about the wall jump.
Yes,
I think you can see
where
where
this
this
one.
is going.
Oh my God, that
going
was
from
brutal
the ground
single player.
to the top with 4 people, and the camera follows one person regardless of how good that person's doing. It is literally an impossible to play together experience.
Oh God, yeah, I've been playing
and that happens like a lot as you get to. So we only did a couple levels at 4, and like that was the point where. And it's so funny because like, and Isaiah doesn't listen to the show, so he'll never really know about this. But I told him, I say this all the time. Like, I'm like, people joke that I hate games. I'm like, they should watch Isaiah play games, because when Isaiah gets mad when he's playing a game, he's like, it's like, oh, he was tearing them designers up. He was not having a good time. And I get it, because I don't think it worked well for the 4, so I didn't disagree with him. But like, it definitely was like, I think we're about done playing now, because the night is going in a bad direction.
Something horrific is happening to groups around the nation.
Yeah.
We played like 10 levels, and I was like, should we just go back to Jackbox?
Yeah, I've seen enough. I've seen enough.
Please.
All right, okay. Yeah. But the game itself, there's a lot of fun ideas in there.
And so like, that's how I started playing the game. And then after that, I've played single player the entire time, and it's I've been steadily enjoying it more and more. Like, and like, it really does feel like it's meant to just kind of, you want to soak up every special little quirk to a level, whatever that level's gimmick is.
Yeah, it's
just much easier to do that while you're playing alone, and just kind of smile to yourself in appreciation for what they're doing. And the game has been consistent. The 30, 40 levels or whatever that I've played, like, every single one has some weird new thing to it, and then also another secret weird thing. And it's like, they don't repeat gimmicks. That like, there are a couple like set kind of ones where it's like, okay, you got to go around and find hidden coins in this little area, or you have to do a series of like, you got to kill all the enemies in this area. But beyond that, like, they don't recycle a lot of the different quirky wonder seed events, and that's just ridiculous.
Has anyone done the online Souls aspect stuff?
The weird, like, setting the standee? I haven't.
I turned that off pretty quickly. It's pretty
Can anyone explain what that is also? Because I have a very shaky understanding of the standee system.
The standee system, you can like play standees, and I think that gives people like coins or something. But like, the thing that was bugging me was like seeing all the other people playing online at the same time, the ghosts in the background. It was just like, it was basically like playing this. I really turned it off. I was like, this, nope.
It is funny.
Like, I've been too much going on here.
Yeah, I've been playing offline, just on a flight mainly and stuff like that. And it is weird, like, having an in-world character. Like, this is Professor Connect. He understands the Wi-Fi. You got to activate Professor Connect. It's like they're trying to like make the internet be like how Lakitu was the camera for Mario 64, where it's like,
well, I mean,
sorry,
always
Professor.
Do that, man.
Yeah.
That's like a Nintendo thing. They always have like, even Animal Crossing, you have to go talk to a pilot at the airport to like get on the internet.
Right.
You know what I mean? They always sort of try to personalize everything.
Just to make you feel like you're disappointing this person. Be like, I don't think I want to turn on those weird ghosts, but maybe we're blowing it. But no,
Mario Maker tutorials or characters, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I do love how musical the game is. Like, obviously having musical themed levels and stuff like that, but also just like, having the butt bomb move have like a little rim shot to it now. It just feels like music is really baked in a different way, in a bigger way than it has been in Mario's past. Or just, did I have my headphones in weird? Did they change the firepower sound effect in this game too?
I really don't remember.
Okay, all right. It stood out to me, but I was like, is this just a weird headphone issue I'm having? Because like everything's just been tweaked in some subtle ways. But Kelsey, what's popping for you over there?
I mean, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is kind of what people have been talking about with the gimmicks, but really just the enemy design. Like, I have never been... It's not often that there is a Nintendo game where it's just like, oh, there's not that much that's familiar here.
Right,
Like, I can figure it all out pretty quickly. And, like, piranha plants exist or whatever, and so do Goombas, but they tend to, even among that, have their own quirks, like... The piranha plants might get up and start walking, or this is a slightly different Goomba wearing like a skull or something, and he takes 2 hits to kill or whatever.
Yeah.
But the enemy design has been really, really, interesting for me. And this is going to be a very strange comparison, but with Pokemon Black and White, they decided to do a thing where it's like, okay, you're just not going to run into like anything familiar for a while. Like all of the Pokemon you see are all going to be this new generation. And I found that kind of jarring at the time and like wasn't a huge fan of it. And I feel like this is the way to do it. Whatever they're doing here.
The right mixture of old and new.
Yeah, where things will at least appear familiar, but there's still, there's really very little that is actually, like has one for one been in a previous Mario game. And, and yet you don't really, you don't feel like this is totally brand new. Like it's all instantly understandable, which, is really, really impressive. I also, I think I mentioned this when we were talking about Mario Wonder, just like after they did trailers and stuff. I continue to feel like this is a game built for like the next generation of human beings with just the way Janet, you touched on this a little bit with just like design sensibilities, but like the fact that there are 30-second levels and these like 30-second experiences even within the levels, these wonder seeds and everything, it feels very like I swear I'm not trying to sound like an old lady with this, but like it feels a little like TikTok generation, like a little.
Kelsey, no, you're like the old woman in The Shining. You're aging too quickly. You said the words. No.
No, I literally thought of your like, and that's what I like about, I don't know, like what this is getting kind of meta about like what we do and like the conversations that we like all have about games, because even when I maybe have a different feeling or takeaway from it, like I feel like I gain additional perspective from like what y'all bring up. And like when I was playing and I was talking to my friend Eddie, because he's like working on his review of the game, he was like, oh, how do you feel about the fact that there's not numbers popping up from the enemies, there's like words? And I was like, oh, I didn't really process that because I'm just kind of playing, I don't know, I didn't think about it. And then I thought about what you said when we previewed it at PAX, where you said like this feels like, in a not necessarily pejorative way, but like the iPadification of Mario. And I'm like, that's like the words just kind of buzzing on screen. It is very like, it is a stimulus heavy experience for sure.
And it's got like the emojis
I think you totally
and stuff.
Nailed it when you like had brought that up earlier. So like, I was thinking about that as I played, Kelsey. So I'm glad you brought it up again.
For what it's worth, my 12-year-old was done after like 3 levels and went back to Stardew Valley.
It's a little, it is heavy, but
so I don't know if it's for their generation or not.
Well, I guess it depends on the age too, but I think also it's funny because it does feel new in that sense, but it also feels like a nod to the chaos of Mario Maker, because Mario Maker was also big on like, what if you could do like just throw a bunch of stuff on screen and kind of like vomit assets in a way. And like, but obviously this is much more controlled and like thought out. No offense to people making like Mario Maker levels, but it felt like a little bit, I don't know. It was interesting because it felt different and like modern in that sense, but also like a callback to some of the funkiness of the Mario Maker era.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nintendo published like a Q&A, basically their new era of Iwata asked on their site where they went into the development a little bit. And it's interesting hearing Tezuka, who's been on the series since the start. He was talking about how he felt the pressure while promoting Mario Maker 2, and he did so many interviews with the press, and the press was like, well, how do you make a new 2D Mario after this? Because you're kind of giving people all the tools. And he's like, oh, we'll have something. It'll be weird. It'll be different than Mario Maker. So he was saying that Mario Maker was actually fuel for the team for like, okay, we really got to push this thing and do something completely new that couldn't be made in the Mario Maker mold. So it's weird how just maybe even the press impact has made them rebound in just a really weird direction. But
I don't know if they were successful, man, because like those levels feel, I mean, outside of the Wonder Seeds, they feel very template-y to me, like that. And it really, and I don't know if Mario Maker broke my brain, but like I can see all the sort of recurring squares and stuff that they use. And it really makes me
just understanding like how Mario games are constructed better though through Mario Maker. But that's just kind of seeing into the Matrix, not like
I know,
so
and
you've seen the meat get made too much, and now you're like, should we be eating this? Like, is that?
I'm with you, Kyle.
That's totally fair, and it is bringing down my overall experience. And my thought was like, man, I feel like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze didn't have this template-y feel. And I went back and watched a bunch of gameplay, and it really doesn't. Like the levels.
That's like one of the best platformers, though. Like
I know, and I use that as a point.
It's better than Mario Wonder. You know what I mean? Like it just is.
Thank you. I totally agree with you, Janet. To the point, and I really am enjoying
of Freeze than it is a slight to Wonder. To clarify. Like,
yeah, like I've been really Wonder is really joyful, and it's really like lovely, and I've been having a good time with it. And I'm eager to go back to it. I like the talking flowers. I know that's like seems to be a point of contention. Some people don't like them. I like them quite a bit. I think they're quite great. But like I felt like I was taking crazy pills because I was like, this is like not on the same level as Tropical Freeze, right? Everybody.
Oh, Kyle.
No, I definitely think this is, you know, it's interesting. Ben, you opened this with the like, are you a 2D or a 3D? Like I love both. I never really felt that like that's a conversation people have, but I never really thought of my fandom as like 2D versus 3D. Like I've just been playing Mario my whole life, and like I'm gonna play it forever. Mario's definitely gonna outlive me, which is a scary thought to have now that I'm talking about it. But you know, and if there's an afterlife and the Nintendo Online works there for some reason, if it's the good place,
it will.
I don't know. But yeah, like I like both of those. I do think. I don't know. It does sound like this is like a very washed conversation, like a date, like, you know, it's going to make me sound old, but I do think the best of 2D is probably behind us. And I think that's fine. Like those highs are so high. Like, I don't think I'm going to get that maybe now. And I don't think I necessarily need to. I think this is a step in a positive direction for what 2D has been recently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think what you guys were talking about is it's a shifting design focus. Like, I don't think they're setting out to make the best, you know, kind of long format 2D levels anymore, or trying to capture the challenge of that. It's like they're trying to do fresh bite-sized things. Like that's the design goal for this game. And you're not going to, like all of my complaining about the levels seem a little shorter and a little easier than previous Mario games. I think that's just like, that's a shift in focus. That's not like an accidental, hey, we couldn't make this level twice as long and twice as hard. Like, that's what they're going for here.
Well, also, I mean, I don't know how much is just your nostalgia and your youth coming through. I mean, I played Mario 3 all the way through for the first time within the last 5 years. And I was struck in Mario 3, at least, like some of those levels are microscopic, you know? So it's not a completely unheard of thing to have really bite-sized Mario levels here.
I like the shorter levels. Like I want them shorter and like more bite size. I love that. The thing that's like not clicking with me with Mario Wonder is like the sense of place. It just doesn't.
Man, I'm totally with you, Kyle.
Like, and there's something flat, and it's like I love the new animations for the cast, and Mario looks great and stuff. But it's the levels, it's the look of the levels that just are not doing it for me, and it just feels. And like we're talking about with Kelsey's, like I think maybe Mario Maker 2 broke my brain a little bit, but I can see the grids, and it makes me less excited.
Well, I don't even think you're not Neo in the Matrix for seeing the grids. Like some of those bonus levels, it's like I enjoy the variety of having them, but some of those like, hey, here's a challenge arena, or you know, the one you talked about, Janet, of like, you know, wall jump to the top. It really is just like barren landscape. Here's a block here. Here's a block here. Where Kyle, I'm totally with you. And I was reading that, behind the scenes blog thing, and no shade to this person. They're 1,000 times smarter than I am. But yeah, so Masanobu Sato is the art director. And he got his start working on the series by animating the Koopalings in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And it made me think back to that idea
on
of
the Nintendo scale, honestly.
Right. But I do wish it had like an overall clearer aesthetic. But like the thing that made me think of is like, and it's not fair to lump everybody together and say that everyone's a hypocrite, all these Mario fans. But I feel like everyone in the world that I talked to was like, New Super Mario Brothers, those stupid Koopas that look towards the camera and go, ba, ba, during the song, which I was fine with back in the day and
Best
stuff.
part of those games.
Yeah, it was a charming little thing. I feel like that sensibility and the Koopaling animations that the art director worked on before, that is like spread throughout this entire game in such a big way. And now everyone's like, oh, it's genius. It's a whole new world of Mario.
For it back then.
It's confusing. It's like, I feel
That
like
is true. Maybe he was ahead of the curve,
it could be.
Well, this is also very much leaning into that, whereas the new Super Mario Brothers games were, like it was a part of the game, but this is like full lean into it. So maybe people just weren't ready for like a sprinkle of it. They needed like the whole thing.
That's
No
such a
respect
weird
for
take.
subtlety back then.
I guess so. Yeah. Why put a little salt in your food when you can just lick an entire salt lick, and that's the game. But no, kind of talk, like I know you're a bigger fan of the 3D series and stuff, and it's interesting hearing in that behind the scenes blog that apparently the director for 3D World, Hayashida, he was a designer on this game, and his entire mission was like, we need to inject more 3D Mario inventiveness, quote unquote, and kind of inject it back into the 2D series. So I love that it's just beyond a talking point. It's like, no, we took the director of 3D World and brought him onto this. And I do agree there is some of that, but Kyle, I don't want to be too negative. I think I'm on the exact same page on you with this game, where it's like I'm having a fine time playing through it, but I can just keep thinking about like, Rayman Legends was pretty freaking good. Maybe we should go back and play that a little bit more, everybody.
For me, it's like Tropical Freeze and Rayman Legends, and then Wonder is underneath both of those. Personally, I mean, we're not ranking 2D platformers.
We are.
We should toss it on the pile. Why not?
I just what I don't understand about this take is like Mario Maker gave me a greater appreciation for a 2D Mario done well. And so to hear the take that's like, well, now that I can see the game design behind it, I don't like it as much. I'm like, oh, I like it more for that. Like, I guess you can tell these people are experts at doing this. I understand more of what goes into these decisions and appreciate it more. It's like, I don't know, like, we don't really get to like dig into video game source code and stuff very often, and Mario Maker is like a gamified version of that, where it's like, here's how this is made, here's how the cake is made, and now I like can taste the vanilla better or something. Like I like that.
I followed you.
No, I think it's like design versus the visual aspect is the thing that I'm getting caught up on. Like the design stuff is great. It's like, oh, I understand what I'm supposed to do here. This is fun. But it's like, I just wish it like, I guess and it's like, maybe it's a personal preference, but like, I don't want to enter a test chamber. I want to feel like I'm in a real place.
Right.
And like, and I know I keep going to Tropical Freeze, but Tropical Freeze
play an
feels
RPG
like
or something. That's not what platformers are.
No, he said Tropical Freeze
played
has
RPG. Who could have predicted that one coming out?
Some of my favorite games, Inside, Limbo, like those are 2D games that just like I feel like I'm in this strange world, and I'm not getting that from Wonder.
Are you saying like you don't feel like the areas are like detailed enough to immerse you in the world of God? Where are we again? We're in
Plant Town, USA.
Flower World. I think so. I'm.
What's the name of the world that we're on?
I'll find it.
I guess
Florian's land, right? Is that what you mean? Like you're just like, I just feel like
Florida.
I'm not. Yeah, I just feel like I'm not in Florida when like I'm just climbing 3 random bricks. Is that kind of the thing? I feel like though. I mean, obviously that's your opinion and like you're entitled to have it, but I've never really.
You're damn right I am.
Yeah. In case you need there's the permission. Well, I don't give it to everyone, Kyle. I'll take it away.
Thank you.
I
embrace.
I'll turn this podcast right around. No, but I was saying Flower Kingdom. Oh yeah, who could forget? Like anyway, I never really got a strong sense of place from like Mario like that. Like it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously there is a lush and fun world, but it's not like.
I mean, I do think
those comparisons, like Inside is such a moody,
well,
vibe-feeling game. You know, it's like, I'm here to jump.
But I mean, Mario 3, I still think holds up as like having such a distinct vision and art style and vibe. Mario
Yoshi's Island.
Art
Yoshi's
style,
Island.
not a world that you're living in. Oh, I remember when I was so immersed in that world that had giant colored blocks in the background.
Right.
That if you crouched on it, you could fall behind. Like,
Sure, style.
What was the style? Sure. But the trade-off
more of an
here is that the
aesthetic
style
complaint, though,
changes
then.
every level,
Yeah.
though. Like, it can't be cohesive because what you're doing every level is completely different from the last level. And
It's
and
too
I say
cohesive.
that,
That's the problem.
allow me to.
Plating.
I guess, man. I don't know. It's like
Too many repeated patterns until you get a
once.
windflower.
I feel like you wanted to hate it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you.
The complaint about tiles is throwing me too. It's like, because that has been every Mario game ever made.
I feel like, I don't know. And maybe it's nostalgia lens, but I feel like I look at Yoshi's Island and it's
100%.
Oh, well,
feels
Yoshi.
like a
See,
more.
here's the thing. You keep like, and this is fair to do because I think, and it's in a way, like I think, you know, you could analyze this conversation from many angles. I know some people will be like, oh, like, I don't know, you're like nitpicking or whatever. I think the fact that we can even have the conversation about comparing it to some of these other, like the platformers we're naming are some of the best platformers of all time. So I think the fact that
Yeah, but this is a new 2D Mario, Janet. Like, it should be compared to that level, you know?
No, but that's what I'm saying. I think it's good that we can even have that aspect of conversation because it speaks to the fact that it's even in near that conversation bit from like a quality of a game perspective. Because I'm like, because we weren't talking about that for the new Super Mario Bros. Like people were like, I don't know. I mean, it was fine. Van Gogh was fun, and that was kind of it. But yeah, like if you're asking like, is it on that level? It is not. It is not as good as Yoshi. I don't even think it's as good as Yoshi's Woolly World, which I think is just an underrated game.
Whoa.
No.
Hang on,
Yeah,
Kelsey's vomiting.
100%. I'll take Yoshi's Woolly World over this any day.
Whoa, that is the hottest take I've heard all year, Janet.
Yes.
All right.
No one
Shut it down,
on
shut it
Earth
down.
has
I-
ever defended
Let's talk about
Woolly
Jackbox.
World.
If you collect, here's the thing. If you collect all the flowers in Yoshi's World, that's a freaking masterfully designed game. Now, if you just want to beat the levels, and there's no shit, you can play how you want.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it might seem kind of simple, but it has so much depth and intrigue and challenge in that game.
Okay.
Like, it is a fantastic, like, it is, oh, sorry, not Woolly World, Woolly World, yeah.
My
Woolly World,
point
not Crafty World.
is
Crafty World
proven.
Because Crafty World isn't that good. Like, Crafty World's a little bit like,
All right,
it's
this
fine.
is falling
Woolly
apart.
World hits. It hits hard as hell. You completionists run that, and you completionists get all the standees in Mario. I'm sorry, that's not interesting. Like, it's not satisfying. It's not compelling to get.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll stand
okay.
on that 6 ways to Sunday, 10 toes down. Woolly
10
World's a fantastic
toes
game.
down, she says.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I didn't play that game for 8 years just for people to be like, oh, and then you look at that freaking amiibo and he's giant. It's great.
I mean, yeah, it is like I said, like you can reasonably 100% levels the first time through a lot of the time when you play
you
this
do
one.
that
It's
in
like
Woolly World, and you tell
get
me that
two
that's easy
seeds,
to do.
You get 2 seeds, you find 3 of the purple coins, and you jump to the top of the flagpole. And that's kind of like, that is what's defining a fully completed level. And that's what kind of feels like what is different. Again, like that's their design choice of where they wanted to go with it. But like, back in Super Mario World, like finding all 5 Yoshi coins felt like a much more difficult and challenging.
We sound so
thing.
old in this podcast.
It is. It's a very old comparison, and they were all tiled any way you look
I do
at it.
think,
So
obviously, like at a certain point, it kind of becomes the same thing over, and I'm sure our takes might evolve as we reach completion of the game. But one thing I do want to throw out that I really like about it, kind of back to sort of what Kelsey was talking about with like the newness of it, just the novelty of like even that first boss fight, like it just the designs and like just sort of the
Wait, Bowser Jr.? Just you jump on his head?
No, but like there's like a design thing that happens to him. Like he turns.
He changes his
different
color.
or
He
something.
changes sizes.
Yeah,
Okay.
like and he changes, and you change size too, and like there's stuff like that that I think
like
is
that.
really cool. And again, you could argue, oh well, we've been again Yoshi's Island. When Kama comes by, you also sure. I'm not saying it's the first thing to do any of these things individually, but I liked the dynamics in just what is inherently a fairly simple, straightforward fight because it kind of just added like a little
Sure.
extra something. And I think there's a good amount of spots like that. And what I'm looking forward to with playing more of it is I really don't know mechanically what's going to come next and how they're going to do things. I also think too, like I'm enjoying the badge system a lot. Like the flipper kick underwater, like underwater levels are so freaking hard to do. And like them just adding like that little bit to make it a little easier to traverse. Like I think there's some really cool stuff going on in that regard. So yeah, I'm still playing just with my family, so it'll probably take me a while to see it through and kind of grab them along. Hopefully it'll be faster than my other multiplayer 2D platformer games, because it's hard to wrangle the
nearly
group
impossible
to finish that. But that's why it took me many years to beat Woolly World and many years to beat Sackboy: A Big Adventure. But looking forward to getting there when I can carve out the time for it.
Well, there we go. Kelsey, did you see that interview on Nintendo's blog about this game, or the whole Iwata Asks thing?
No, and now I need to. Once he started talking about it, I'm going to read that.
There's one quote, if you want a little insight into Koji Kondo's brain, where they're talking about the brainstorming for Mario Wonder and how everyone could toss in ideas and stuff. And Koji Kondo says, I also contributed a lot of suggestions at the idea sharing session. And they say, you shared ideas too, Kondo-san? And he said, yes, I shared the idea of an 8 heads tall, life-sized, live-action Mario humming along with the background music as he goes along. And they say, 8 heads tall, life-size Mario? Koji Kondo says, yes. When he jumps, he says to himself, boing. The idea was never used, though. I feel like I had to take the lead in going to the extreme. So I love the idea of, this is the Mario music guy. His vision is a giant live-action Mario singing along to what's happening. Probably Chris Pratt. I don't know exactly who they get to play.
Why aren't you guys writing this down? This is a great idea.
Honestly, no, I would have popped for that. Is that not like... we walked into that tower in 6 Golden Coins, the Mario Tower.
Oh, that's true. The big toy guy.
Right.
You tell me that didn't sound ridiculous when you say it in that way? Yeah.
I guess
let it come to
too
life.
weird.
Let me see them.
Hey, speaking of let me see them, let's see some new people on this podcast. Let's see, Kyle, you have to go play some more Alan Wake, I presume?
I do indeed.
All right, thanks for joining us. Clap out. It's been a while, dude.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Here we go.
Oh, Kyle, don't clap out. Don't clap out yet. Because we're going to be talking about Spider-Man when the new crew comes in a little bit. But Drake Heinhorst wrote in for over on Patreon, and I thought it'd be fun to get your reaction to this. No spoilers here. Drake Heinhorst writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, I just rewatched The Deepest Dive on Miles Morales that Kyle was on, along with Kyle Bossman and Ana Diaz. And Ben Hansen, you had some predictions for Spider-Man 2. Number 1, Miles' powers being called Venom powers is confusing, and it will be addressed in the game. Miles will say, quote unquote, he's not Venom, I am. Not in the game as far as I've seen. But
Sorry for the spoiler, but no, did not happen.
It's a mistake. No. Number 2, the sequel will have to have co-op. Ben said, quote, there's no way they don't do that. But then
they made the right call. Yeah. I didn't bring it up earlier, but my anti-co-op stance is coming in strong for this episode.
Yeah, there it is. Number 3, Ben then backtracked on his second prediction pretty quick and said, if it isn't co-op, then the first 50% of the game is Peter and the second half is Miles fighting evil Spider-Man. No comment on that. Number 4, they won't reuse the New York map. So if you need...
they were going to be in a different city, like Seattle,
I guess that was the prediction. So if you ever want evidence that you should never listen to anything I say on this podcast, there you go. Predictions for Spider-Man.
I would love to know if I pushed back on any of that. I think I pushed back on the Venom thing.
It is confusing. They should have had at least one line in there that addresses the fact that, okay, it's not important.
I'm the only person confused by it. I mean, it's not
I'm the only person confused by that? No. I've heard other people on the podcast talk about it.
Are you sure it was just you looking in a mirror?
Yeah, my favorite podcast.
His powers being called Venom powers are not this iconic thing. You know, they're just like electricity powers.
But it's addressed a lot. They say it a lot in the game. Anyways, Kyle, okay.
I don't know.
At least twice. All right, thanks, Kyle. Clap out, buddy.
See ya.
Holy cow. Sarah Podzorski. Absolutely, it worked. It still functions, everybody. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hello.
Not to be outdone by Leo Vader.
It's my great honor.
That's right. Big dog on campus. Let's see. Leo, Sarah, this is Janet, Jeffem, and Kelsey. They're here as well. And you will not...
Hi, guys.
Hi.
You will not find Kyle here. No matter how hard you search, he is nowhere to be found. Welcome to the big show. we should probably talk about this in our Monday meetings. Maybe it's poor planning on my part for having a bunch of 6-person episodes recently, but I think it's kind of fun to pack it in and have everybody in here at the same time.
They are fun. I just re-listened to the 2022 Game of the Year debates because I'm getting excited. And
You're too strong.
Having the full cast was a blast. It's so great having all of us together.
Okay, now
More the
imagine
merrier.
that plus Haley, and how chaotic is it going to be is the question.
I know.
Yes,
I'm
on a
sad
way
Haley couldn't
harder
make it
year.
for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. What'd you learn, by the way, going back and listening to that, Leo?
We're good.
Oh, you liked it?
We did one Game of the Year, Chaz.
Really? You genuinely liked it?
I did for sure, but I think there should be a pissy zone every segment this year. I wanted to talk to you about that.
Okay.
Every recording.
Yeah, instead of just a
its own
backstage
zone.
pass thing. That makes sense. We
Just more piss is what the show needs.
Yeah, that was my one note.
Somebody had a suggestion. I think it was like on Reddit. We were just saying like, "Hey, what should we do in the future?" All these things, and somebody had a suggestion, which is like, "Oh, on the official MinnMax site, which does exist, everybody, MinnMax.com.
Yes.
They're like, you should have the list of the 210s for every year." I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so like I took 20 minutes and put that into the new site, and so you can check out the full list of the 210s for every year since 2019. But it was a really, if I may kiss my own ass, it was like a flattering moment of like, then the person responded to that Reddit comment. They're like, wait, you actually just did this. It's like, yeah, we're an independent operation. Like, it's not rocket science to just add this thing. That's a good idea. So if you want to fully
talk to the
prepare,
shareholders first.
that's
Yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah, you know how it is. Hey, we should, Sarah, are you okay waiting for just like 10 more minutes before we talk about City Skylines 2?
Oh my god.
Just please,
What else is there to talk about?
how about a little guy called Spider-Man, Sarah?
Wait, are we doing Jackbox still?
Yeah, we're doing Jackbox. Hell yeah. But I know Leo and Janet and maybe other people, Jeff has probably been playing more Spider-Man 2 and you haven't really weighed in on this thing yet. We covered it a lot in the past, but hot takes on Spider-Man 2 from Leo and Janet here? Stuff we haven't hit yet?
I think it's great. The story isn't blowing my mind, but like the set pieces and the way they're constructed and the way they have impact, I think is like really, really strong for an open world game.
Yeah, because it's interesting. I'm trying to think. You did the game club for the first Spider-Man back at Game Informer, and then I feel like you kind of fell off AAA games in a big way. So it was interesting to hear that you were into this more than I expected.
Yeah, I fell off Spider-Man 1. I don't think I would have finished the story if it wasn't for the game club, but this one I'm feeling pretty self-driven to power through the story. And part of that is you level up every 5 minutes, and that's just fun.
I love how often you're like leveling up in this game. It's funny because like it feels in stark contrast to other games that I've played where you level up once per hour and everything's really expensive. But no, I mean, honestly, I loved it. I think it is very clearly the best of the three, which I'm.
Ooh, okay.
I knew that I'd like it because it's like more Spider-Man, but I was pleasantly surprised by the bit that felt very clearly like a little bit of a step up. Like it's like, oh, okay, like everything. I enjoy everything a little bit more. Like the abilities are super fun. Like they really built on the base they had. I think my favorite thing about Spider-Man 2 is the way that so many of the little narrative elements and the side quest details legitimately pay off. And obviously every franchise is inherently like connected when it's within a franchise. But I really felt like they really leaned into the friendly neighborhood New York, Spider-Man's New York aspect of it in terms of, hey, this NPC that you may have like talked to in the first game, like they have another quest and it's like in the same vein. And it's like, this is the pigeon guy from before. And there's also like, without getting into spoilers, because I platinumed it, so I did all the side quests and everything. There's like a lot of heart in some of those side quests.
Yes.
And I really, really loved that. I thought there's like, frankly, moments in this game that I found to really be beautiful and truly moving. I think they just did a great job. I think a lot of people criticize games like Spider-Man 2 for being like, oh, it's like the classic, it's AAA, it's so polished that like, who cares? It's like too basic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there is like a sector of fans that feel that way about it.
You can just say Leo Vader. It's fine. Yeah.
I think where it shines is just the fact that like it's like one of the best versions of that to ever really do it. And I think there's something really masterful in that execution. So yeah, I loved it. And there's a bunch more suits. And like, I have very few like critical notes of it. There definitely still are there. I don't think it's like a literal masterpiece of a game, but I think it's very, very strong. It's super fun. Like I loved it front to back. So definitely one that I think if you're enjoying it, I think it's totally worth doing a completionist run of it, because you really do get like extra like narrative or ability stuff, or like you just get so much out of fully playing it to completion in a way that isn't always true for an open world game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. You're talking about like how it's one of the best that's ever been done, and that is, I just kept thinking about while playing it. It's like, God, how many games have been done on this scale and have come out this well? It's like, you know, Brian Intihar, the senior creative director on this game, it's like not many people on Earth have pulled off a game like this. It's honestly a handful of, oh boy, sorry, YouTube, handful of Sony games at this point, honestly, that have like pulled off something this big and this smooth. It's
People are opening Reddit right now, Ben.
It is a wild level of production that they've done here to make it also seamless for, the big like cutscene or cinematic moments and stuff like that. It's just ridiculously well done.
Yeah, I mean, few studios obviously get that kind of money and time to do something
Yes.
like this, of course.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I am vibing with the combat more, especially, of course, the stealth sections, you know me. But that line they added, the line you can place anywhere to make your own kind of
Yes.
little spider thing to traverse, which I think is straight out of the Arkham games, right?
Yeah.
If you want to give credit. But that adds so much, and I really love being able to do my little thinning the herd thing before I go in and like drop a big gadget on a big group and mop them up tactically that way, in addition to how good the freeform combat feels. For some reason, I don't know exactly what they even added, but I'm vibing with it a lot more this time.
I think for me, one of the big differentiators, because it's funny, like, again, glancing at the gameplay, it looks pretty much the same across the three games, but I think the way they've streamlined the gadget system is a big help. In Miles and in Spider-Man 1, it was like you kind of pulled up a wheel and like time slowed down while the wheel was there, and you could like select the gadget and then you could like toss it out. And now it's like completely like quick map to the face buttons by default. So like you're right, if you I was gonna say if you're playing on PlayStation, there's no other place to play it. The right face buttons are like the gadgets, and then like the left is like your abilities, and you just hold down L1 or R1. So the only con of that, I think, is once you get towards the end, you do end up kind of staring just at like your cooldowns in a sense. Like I'm just throwing things out, and I'm not really like paying attention.
It's a
in the same way.
little Final Fantasy 16, if I may. Yeah.
Maybe. I wouldn't know because I only got a few hours into that.
You're lost.
But I'm going to say yes because I can't say you're wrong. So sure, I hope you're right. But yeah, it does end up being kind of like that. But again, that's also like sort of up to you. But I think that's what makes the combat better. Like before, I had such a hard time remembering to use the gadgets. I also think too, like back to the completionist thing, the trophy list is a lot more forgiving. There's a lot less 30 wall takedowns. Like I don't do the wall takedown. You know what I mean? Like there's like less nitpicky little things to do. So I think they also made that pursuit a little bit more fun than it's been previously.
I'm trying to remember, help me out, comments, but just the history of the weapon wheel in the game industry, and obviously it's a critique for Sony games, like, oh, weapon wheel, third person, got it. But I think it was like Resistance 2 got rid of the weapon wheel, and people were so pissed that they added it back in. I think it was like Resistance 3. That was like a big talking point. It's like, the weapon wheel's back. So it's interesting that with the third iteration now, they're like, all right, we're going to cool it on the classic Insomniac weapon wheel and just kind of streamline some stuff a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if there are a million interesting things that justify a wheel, then I guess it's the best thing you can do. But this, it's like, they all kind of do the same thing. You lift people up, or you push them away, or you pull them in. It's like, we don't need a bunch of variations on moving guys around.
Yeah, Jeffem, are you sitting down? Jeffem, are you sitting down? Jeffem, are you sitting down? I guess they don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sarah, do you want to talk about City Skylines 2?
Hold on. I had a question. I was giving breathing room to kill it off. Do you guys actually know what gadgets you're using when you use gadgets? Or do you just press whatever is available at that point?
I dedefinitely know the sucking guys in one, because that gets an upgrade where it pulls in the environmental objects too, and it ends up doing a ton of damage. So I use that one a lot.
I know. I love how the upgrades work in conversation with playstyle in this game. And obviously, like at a certain point, like if you have all the upgrades, like whatever. But I was obsessed with aerial combat in this. Like, hold down square and then you can lift people up and then fight them. I just pull people. I was just in the air. I was just Air Jordan in this game, and I loved it. Yeah. And I leaned into that from the jump with my upgrades, where I did like extra damage and I got like extra health. Like I was just
air dodge, a
threat to the sky. Yeah, like I was just terrorizing people. It was great. But I would say probably not. Like I am aware of what they do in a sense. Like to Leo's point, like sometimes I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna do this because it'll be fun. Or there are, without spoiling it, there are like side, essentially challenge rooms that you can do, where sometimes they need you to do a certain thing. Like one of them is launch enemies into the abyss. So then in that one, I'm like, okay, I'm very strategically doing certain moves to make that happen within a time frame. But generally, I'm kind of throwing it all out there after a certain point.
I really love the hold triangle and press a trigger to send them in a specific direction.
Yeah.
Or both to slam them down. Like manipulating people like that and getting a kill early, for lack of a better word, by webbing them up and slamming them into something, like strategizing around that is not new, but still really satisfying.
Yeah. Are you gonna stick with them? Stick with Spider-Man, Jeff?
Yeah. I don't know why you asked me that at this point, because I say that about every game.
I've noticed.
But I feel like this one is achievable. This and Mario Wonder, I feel like I'm probably halfway through Spider-Man, 2/3 through Super Mario. I feel like I can do that.
Well, great. Carve out time for Alan Wake 2 with the deepest dive, and it'll be good to go. Piece of cake.
Perfect.
Sarah, can we please
my
talk
gosh.
about a city? Finally.
Can we talk about the heroes of Spider-Man, which is the city planners? Can we talk about the true heroes of society? City planners.
Now we're getting to it.
I don't think City Skylines 2 is a game so much as it is a absolute time machine.
Oh.
Because I play this game and then all of a sudden, like I boot it up. I'm like, time to, make some roundabouts, make some poorly developed roads. And then suddenly it's 4 a.m. and I've absolutely destroyed my sleep schedule playing this game.
Yeah,
I have not recovered yet.
I feel like I sent the code to you not too long ago, and then I saw your Steam profile and I was like, wait, she's put in like 40 hours already? Like, how is this possible? What is going on in that freaky house?
It's just one more road. I can fix this. It's a constant. I mess it up and then I'm like, wait, we can fix this. We just need more roundabouts, more public transportation. And honestly, I played the original City Skylines also when it launched back in 2015.
It's so long
this has
ago.
been kind of like
it's so wild.
a long time coming for me. And it's hard to compare the two when one of them has like several years of DLC and mods. But I still think that this is already like a better jumping off point than the original City Skylines.
Okay.
Like the roads are it's a lot easier to figure out roads. I'm still not quite sure. Like I've still created more problems than solved them. Trying to make roundabouts. Because I'm like, oh, traffic, just drop in a roundabout.
Right.
That's a solution for another day. But it feels like your cities can expand a lot faster and you can actually buy up land and actually they want you to grow faster. Whereas in the first City Skylines, I was building like these little tiny landlocked cities. And now in this City Skylines 2, I'm like trying to like embrace the sprawl as quickly as possible.
Right.
Because it's just a lot easier and it's a lot cheaper to buy surrounding land.
Yeah, it's really the opposite of SimCity 2013, which is so tight, and then City Skylines back in 2015 felt like the reinvention of that, and now this is even further of like, okay, now just go massive.
The maps are huge, and like the topography is also a little bit different. I feel like in the original City Skylines, it was like, here's this flat field, like maybe you'll get a river, maybe you'll get an ocean, go ham. But in this one, there's like American versus like European style, which will dictate how your buildings look. Just very interesting.
Can you help me out with this? Because I've heard you loving it and you're so eager to talk about it on the podcast and stuff. And then I see the rest of the internet taking a big steaming dump on it. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Is it just performance issues that's leading to like the Steam reviews being low?
I think a lot of it is performance issues.
Okay.
I didn't notice any issues. I have like a 3070. Did my PC sound like a jet engine? Yes. But like it didn't shut down, it didn't crash. It played. Good
enough for me.
And also, like I mentioned, there's like several years of like DLC and like quality of life mods. And you really can't compare like the end of City Skylines 1 to the beginning of City Skylines 2 and not be like disappointed like that there's not enough mods, not enough quality of life, but it's like it'll get there. Like I have no doubt that this one will get to where the current City Skylines is.
Yeah, any complex game that gets a sequel. I always think of, when a new Sims comes out. It's like, I still am in the mind frame of like, oh, Sims 4 is trash. Now everyone's like, what are you talking about? No, of course it's great. But it's like, oh, I just remember when it came out, everyone said it was dog's breakfast compared to Sims 3.
It didn't have pools. It didn't have toddlers. They had a lot to answer for.
The two most important ingredients to a fun Sim session.
How are you supposed to kill people if there's no pool?
I watched IGN's review of City Skylines 2 because I'm curious about it. I really love that first game. And I want to take time for it. And it's like, it seems like a lot of nitpicky things of like, oh, the parking lots look weird. Like things aren't as smooth for if you're really zooming into the granular level here.
Yeah, it really depends. I didn't realize people cared like how their cities looked aesthetically because mine always just looked like a hot mess. But like if it functions like a true city.
Sure.
The issue that they're running into is because they sort of changed the topography. There's a lot of hills, and when you slap a building down on a hill, it'll either just kind of like level all of it, so now there's a huge cliff, or it'll like manipulate the building weirdly, so it's like somebody's backyard is like going vertical, like Spider-Man style.
Okay.
But I think that'll just come with, quality of life updates and all that. Because, like, to me, it doesn't really matter. Like, my favorite thing to do is, like, in this version of the game, you can actually, like, follow people who live in your city. Where, like, you can find a bunch of people and add them to, like, a following list.
Wait,
and
so
you can,
whoa. It's
like the government.
It's like a watch list?
Yeah, like, I'm like the government. I'm essentially stalking my citizens. But, like, I can find people, and I can add them to, like, my following list. And I can go through and I can click on people and see where they are at any time. And I also get like
terrorist acts.
No, but I can see their like Twitter updates.
Thinking
and
about
I can
terrorism
see when
today.
they're like dating people. They're like, oh my God, like I'm so happy that I met like Jonathan Smith. And then it'll be like a little bit later, it'll be like Jonathan like Smith and I are getting married. And you're like, that's cool. And then you'll scroll up and then it'll be like, I hate Jonathan Smith. We got a divorce. I have a new job and a new apartment. And it's a whole new me. And you're like, what happened?
Also, the roundabout is really cool by my house. I've been meaning to tweet about
Yeah,
this.
I really love the way that this highway going 70 miles an hour turns into a sudden roundabout with 5 spokes on it.
My Hot Wheels car is coming in handy.
Not to mention, there's traffic accidents now, like full on traffic accidents where like cars are on fire, and legit there was a body on the road.
Oh, Jonathan!
And that's when I realized that like apparently you need to buy road services to clear your roads, because they were like, I kept getting this pop up that was like
piling up.
The body was still there.
the bodies are piling up, and they're like, an abnormal amount of your citizens are dying. Either your healthcare's bad or the roads are bad. And I'm like, what do you mean the roads are bad? They're fine. There's no traffic. Like, what do you mean the roads are bad?
Build a roundabout around the body.
Yeah, just go around it. But and then I realized you need to buy road services to clear traffic accidents and make sure your roads are good enough so you don't kill people. I don't know. It was confusing.
I did want to ask, how are the disasters? Are there tornadoes and stuff? Classic.
Yes, but the disasters, I left them on, but it's literally so weird because you'll get notified to a disaster even if you don't like own the land that it appears on. So they'll be like, oh my God, a forest fire is raging. And you'll be like, where? Oh my God, where is it? Where is it? And then you'll zoom out and it will literally be across a mountain range like miles away, and it'll be like this big.
Please.
And you're like, oh no. And then also I saw a tornado that was literally on the edge of my town. Like a tornado like pulled up on my border, and we kind of like looked at each other. We were and it like stood there for way too long. And I was like, should I put some shelters down? Like, what are we doing here? And then it just disappeared. So I assume the natural disasters will be more of an issue when you have like a bigger city. But right now they've just been like on the outskirts.
So, I heard people really hyping up that idea of how granular you can get for following people. And like, just to go back to this hot relationship with Jonathan Smith, is it to a point where like you can follow this person and they'll like start going to Jonathan Smith's house overnight and stuff? Like, is it to that level of weirdness?
It never gets like, I'm plotting a murder type thing.
Well, then what's the point?
I don't know. So I just like to like, what I like to do in City Skylines is I like to make a bunch of public transportation, and then I like to follow somebody who takes all my public transportation. So they'll be like from a tram to a subway to a bus to their house, and it's like I just make my public transportation utopia. Nice. But I feel for like city builders, because I made all this great public transportation and nobody wants to use it. Like people are complaining about traffic, and I'm like, well, if you just get on the bus, you wouldn't have to sit in traffic, would you?
Yeah, but we saw a news story 2 years ago how there was an attack on a bus once, so we can't use them ever. We can't,
and it's like not the subways, but I feel like you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So I've made it so you have to pay to street park. On any of my roads, you have to pay to street park. And I put a bunch of parking lots down and I crank the price all the way up.
Nice.
So it's like I have become, I make money off of this now. Yeah.
Maybe, the tornado.
Take the train.
So you're liking it more than the first one. This is a biggie for you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely got a lot more quality of life stuff. It's cool being able to see what your city's importing and exporting, and being able to kind of like, I'm importing a lot of like grain. Like, let me just build some farms that farm grain, because apparently like we can cut down on costs that way. So it's cool how you can get that granular with it.
Yeah.
Angular.
There we go. Hey, we didn't miss the joke opportunity, everybody. Don't write in about that one.
Real quick, this is maybe a dumb question, but like, do you feel like it's easy to get like into? Like, and is there like a structure at all to like guide you, or is it really just like go in there and just make whatever, and the fun is tinkering with it kind of continuously? Like, what can people like expect if they're going? Because I've never played like Skylines 1.
If you've never played before, it's definitely, I had like the muscle memory from the first City Skylines. So like you're gonna go in your first city and you're gonna be like, this, I'm doing a great job, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere you're gonna have really bad traffic, and all of a sudden the bodies are gonna start piling up, and then the plague's gonna start because there's too many dead bodies, and disease will overtake your town, and you'll be like, oh, okay. So like, and then you'll learn from that, and then you go and you make a new city that's a lot better. So it's like the first one, it's like playing a game for the first time. The first time is always just kind of like a wipe. Like it's still fun, but like you learn a lot from it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, when I make my next city, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to add more roundabouts.
Yeah. And this is it's just on PC for now, but the first one eventually came to all consoles and stuff, and even like VR and stuff, which is wild. So I'm curious to see what the road ahead looks like for City Skylines
also
2.
a PC Game Pass.
Though that feels difficult to do.
Know why you'd want
it
to
seems
use
like
a
it would be.
controller.
Yeah, I mean they pulled it off in the first one, I guess. Okay, but City Skylines 2 from Colossal Order. That's sweet. Yeah, it feels like Paradox, who's the publisher, it feels like they could use a win. I feel like every Paradox headline I've seen over the last year has not been great. They had like office closures, and then Vampire the Masquerade disasters, and they just like split with Lamplighters League, that new game that was developed. They split with Harebrained Schemes, so it seems like. And then this game coming out, and the reviews weren't great, but it's all performance, so it's like that weird thing of like, 6 out of 10 reviews on Steam, but can I trust it? Is it actually a good game if you have a, beefy PC?
If you liked the original City Skylines, but you only liked it with like 50 mods, maybe wait on this one a little bit.
Right.
But if I liked the original City Skylines vanilla, then jump in, absolutely.
Sweet. Hey, Jackbox Party Pack 10. Surely they couldn't possibly be a 10. It's going to be a momentous event in the gaming industry when they finally surpass Final Fantasy. I feel like with the Jackbox Party Packs, we can all celebrate once they get to 17 before Final Fantasy does. But who's all been playing it? Jeffem, Janet, Leo. I know Haley really enjoyed it, but she couldn't join us for this episode. But good pack, y'all.
Good pack.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay. It's not lighting the world on fire. It seems like upper half of packs, but not like a absolute lock for the party game to be.
I mean, I haven't played all of the packs, so I can't really do like a full versus on like which is the best one. But I really loved it. There are 5 games with it. It's TKO 2, Time Jinx, Dodo Remy, Hypnotorious, and Fixie Text. And of those, like I played with, it was 4 of us total, and like we love TKO 2, which it's funny because it's TKO 2, so it's like the follow-up to their previous TKO. And when we were playing it, one of like my friends was like, oh, how is this different than like TKO 1? Like, what's different? And I'm like, not a lot. Like, they have like sweaters now. And then everyone in my group popped really hard for the fact that they had sweaters. So I don't know. And they're like, oh, and the fonts are like different. Like, unironically, like people were really excited about that aspect. And I love TKO, the original, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Time Jinx was dope. Like, it's basically like Timeline, but with like a little bit of a twist. And
so
then,
you're guessing what year something happened, or how many, what number of something, and then whoever's closer, like the further off you are, the more points you get. You want to have very few points.
Because they had that
one seems like a new Jackbox classic. That's a really cool trivia.
I loved it, yeah. And then we were really into Hypnotorious, and the other two didn't hit quite as hard, but we had like so much. Like we played this right after playing Mario Wonder, and we had like so much fun. It was like some of the most fun I've had. Like Jackbox continuously is really good at delivering like some of the best games, but like on a more, since they're party games, I think people kind of don't always like put it on a big pedestal, but like they crank out really good experiences. The tutorials are really clear. Like I feel like we don't give them enough credit for like how good their design is.
I think you're right. I think you're right. People just kind of take it for granted. I am curious about TKO 2, because I really love that first game, but like, it's not a radical reinvention. You can print your stuff on sweaters, but does it speed things up? Because I love TKO, but it always feels like it's a long, slow burn until it gets really super funny.
That is a totally good Jackbox game that more than some others has a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
Like I think it's the worst one to stream because of all that downtime. And a lot of people get confused by the absolute lack of direction of like you're drawing something random, you're typing a bunch of random stuff.
Right.
There could be an option to remedy that. It seems like the exact same game with a variety of things you can buy. It feels like they want to sell shirts again. Unfortunately, I wish I thought there was more of a heart to it than that, but it really is just like the same TKO, but with kind of a worse art style.
And now they just want to get into that lucrative sweater business. They really sold out this Jackbox crew. I don't know, man. In Party Chat, our bonus podcast, somebody wrote in, they were talking about that Dodo Ray Me one that you didn't like, apparently, Janet, but is this like, it's like a music game? It's like a music rhythm game that you play in this?
Yeah, everybody, there's like 18 instruments to choose from a song, and you pick whatever 5 your group wants to have, and you all play it, and then you all listen to it back and hear all the notes people missed or hit, and it's like this specific version of this song with these specific weird instruments. Like one's just a voice screaming, one could be a cello or whatever. There's such a huge variety, and it's got like progression to it. You're unlocking different songs with your group, which is really unique.
That's perfect. Jeff, hardest laugh from the time you played. What stands out? What game? Give us the scenario. Walk us through it.
That's a good question. Honestly, after we played Jackbox Party Pack 10 and then we played Mario Wonder with 4 people, which was way too many, we went back to like Jackbox Party 4, and I think we had the most fun with Fibbage.
Oh, really? Okay.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, but that's not to throw any shade on the new games. It's interesting, Janet, that you said that Hypnotorious went over so well with your group, because at 8 players, like trying to wrangle everyone and get everyone to listen to the instructions and then understand what's going on in that game was tough. And if someone doesn't understand it because you're typing in, like responses to a question, but you have to pretend to be the thing that you are, but you don't want to say it too blatantly. Like if someone doesn't know what they're doing, their response is going to be crap, and then you're not going to be able to figure out which one to group them in. And it seems like you really everybody has to be on the ball and like sit down for a couple minutes of rules and really internalize them.
You definitely do need to pay attention. So I could see that getting unwieldy. For those who like aren't familiar, like Hypnotorious, the setup is that you like take on a new identity, and it's something like, you could be like, Frankenstein or Subway or a jump rope, like just like a random thing. And then you get asked questions, and you're supposed to answer the way your character would, but don't make it too obvious. So I will say, like, I think where Hypnotorious has room for growth is in clarification on what exactly is my objective. Like, is my objective to, like, seem like, because there's like one outlier in the group basically, or maybe there's more if there's more people, I don't know, I only played with 4, and then it's like, so you're trying to find like kind of the outlier, but like if I'm the outlier, it's not like you're the outlier, so like am I supposed to, like that's the only thing that my group that we kind of struggled with. I felt like the directions weren't clear in that sense, but for me that was like our biggest laugh, because in part to your point, like if you don't really know what's going on, like sometimes you might mess it up. And like my brother had something like he had Long John Silver, and it was like, what's your fear? And he said pirates. And we're like, no, at the end, we're like, you're a restaurant. And he's like, yeah, but like we're a pirate restaurant, so like we wouldn't want to be with other pirates. And we were absolutely like losing our mind of like trying to like and that was like the first round. The second round we understood a little bit more, but it was still like the funniness of like, wait, what is this? Or like one time we like, we had like a chore one, and like me and my brother wrote the same answer. So we're like, okay, I think we're together. Like what I liked about Hypnotorious is I think it does require a lot on the player, but I think it's a nice mix of creative writing without it being like so much pressure to like necessarily perform. Because I think sometimes for sometimes for Jackbox, when it's like open-ended, it's like, okay, like you have to be really funny, like you have to be really clever. This is more like it's a funky little prompt, and the fun becomes like the stuff that you do and discuss together. Like I never really knew what to expect for it, so that's why it was kind of a lot of fun for us, because it was just so like random and kind of interesting, and like, I don't know, it introduced a lot of things we weren't really expecting.
I think that's a great point, and I am glad that they keep trying to do deception games. Like, that's a really cool. I think someday they're going to hit on an amazing one, and maybe it's this. With more time, I think is the only way we'll find out the skill ceiling and what's super interesting about it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a cool genre for a Jackbox game to be.
I agree. Yeah, I wanted to really nail it for a long time. It's like they've gotten close a couple times. I think that space one is fun, but kind of broken.
Among Us, basically.
Yeah, I forget what that was. Not Space, whatever the name of that was. Leo, was it? You were talking about Fixie Text is going to be good for the charity stream we have coming up soon. Was that the number one choice for
Yes.
Okay.
There's one dud in every party pack, pretty much, and I think this is clearly that one. It's not super thought through. You're kind of just typing over each other. It's like split into teams, and these teams are working on an answer to this question together, and so it is going to be nonsense. You're going to start words in the middle of each other's words, and then at the end it's going to read out and make it sound funny and stuff. And it was kind of a miss with my group, but I did immediately clock it as like 5 a.m. Extra Life. This will be
yeah.
funny.
Okay.
I think it's definitely better. That one was also a miss with my group, but I think it's best with like a big group, because at PAX I went to the Jackbox panel that Jenna Stieber was on.
Yeah.
And they played they like showed these games off, so I like saw a lot of them already. And Fixie Text was one of them, and it was really fun like watching them do it and like voting on, because like to add to what Leo mentioned for the setup, you also then like, as the audience, vote and pick your favorite words, and then they kind of do stuff with those words. That was a lot more fun in a really big group and having a really big audience. But with just 4 people, I think Fixie Text falls into the problem of the onus is way too much on the player. Like, oh, I guess I'll just say something like, I don't know, random or gross. Like, I don't know, you can just like make like a crass
Naughty
joke
words.
and like that'll be funny, or I'll say a swear and like I guess that'll get and then I think too, Fixie Text in a small group struggles with when you're not the one writing. Like, you do watch the people write live, but I'm just sitting here waiting for you to be done. I think too, the timer's kind of long, so like I wrote out my thought, I was done. There's no like, can we just hit stop? It's like, no, we just got to sit here. So
I will say though,
think
you're
it
always
struggled
looking
a
at
lot.
something. Like, there's no downtime from a spectator perspective, which I think is another reason it'll work for Extra Life.
Perfect.
There's no like 45 seconds while people silently work on something.
Yeah, because you see it live, but then we didn't have enough content to be live for as long as we were live.
Sure.
And then watching it wasn't like, especially too with only 2 people, it's like, it's also kind of obvious who's writing what in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, while if you had a lot of people, you really are writing over each other and it could be more fun. So that was one that I thought it would be really fun because I saw it and it looked fun. And then when I played it, I'm like, yeah, I guess it isn't that interesting in this small group, but
Sure.
Maybe more fun to watch than play.
Yeah, could be. By the way, Leo, I don't know what Extra Life is. Our charity stream is called Give to the Max. That's coming up Saturday, November 4th.
Oh yeah, we shouldn't do this for that. I'm saving this for whenever I do Extra Life.
Oh, is that right? Okay, it's totally understandable. Yeah, we should remind people. Yeah, we're gonna have a big charity stream, marathon charity stream happening Saturday, November 4th from the MinnMax studio. And the reason it's not called Extra Life this year is we found a smaller nonprofit that we're supporting here out of Minneapolis that is helping out foster kids. And so we didn't come up with this, but it's part of a larger donation drive in Minnesota that happens in November that's called Give to the Max. And so we're hitching
That's
our
convenient.
bandwagon.
We didn't come up with that?
No, it's Give
It's
MN.
called Give to
It's
the
called
Max.
Give to the
I
Max.
thought that you guys were just really clever.
No.
Since I heard it right here, I'm just now realizing, are people going to think that means give to MinnMax?
Oh,
Give to the
Well,
Max.
we do call ourselves the Max a lot, and now it's really
Maxinistas,
coming
yeah.
back to bite us.
Yes.
No, but all the money goes for helping foster kids in Minneapolis, and so we have a ton of charity auctions. So we will have a post up on Patreon. We'll be sharing it and blasting it on social everywhere, so you can get a full rundown of the schedule and all the amazing stuff they're giving away. But a ton of collector's editions, Spider-Man 2 PS5 with the Spider-Man 2 controller, some fun inside jokes and references from New Show Plus throughout the last year that we'll be auctioning off. But there's truly a gobsmacking amount of stuff to auction off. So it's going to be a fun challenge. Get ready to gob,
I'm
Leo.
so excited for that stream.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Now, I saw you and Sarah talking about how any game slotted in for discussion right before community questions is clearly barely making the
It's
cut.
true.
Well, it's like, SNL, they always say like the wackiest sketches are the ones that go 5 minutes before the end of the show, just in case they need to cut it. And I feel like that's where you get the creative good stuff on SNL and the weirdest sketches. And this is where the good best gaming discussions happen on the MinnMax show is right before the community questions deadline. Leo, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, 2, 3, 4, Underground, Project 8. You're playing through all of these? What's going on over there?
Your favorite Tony Hawk games are back installed on my hard drive. I've been emulating PS2. That's what I've been getting back into. And I was like, what game should I play? And then trying one Tony Hawk, going, well, what about this other Tony Hawk? And now I've played almost all of them. A lot of them near to completion, or a couple runs of the ones that are easy to complete.
Whoa. What do you think? What's it like going back to all these?
It's so fun, and it's interesting. I totally have nostalgia goggles that blind me beyond like disliking American Wasteland, my favorite one. It's always been my favorite one. But seeing more of the flaws, seeing like, oh, here's a really slow part of the campaign where you just got a bunch of crappy missions, or like you just have to go across this one connected world in a way that might not be fun if you're not loving every second of it the way I am. And it's also interesting because I've been going back to Thug 1, which is the one I never played because it has a strip club in it. And at the time, my mom took that very seriously. And she was like, you won't be playing Tony Hawk's Underground.
Wait, but you could just like skateboard by the windows and see people with like a bikini inside? Or like, what is the actual extent of the strip club?
Yeah, I want to hear more about the strip club in Tony Hawk.
Do you like skateboard around the
into
pole?
ceiling. And
Okay.
and there are dancers there, scantily clad.
Whoa,
Okay.
whoa.
But
Are they
that's about
skateboarding?
it.
Are they doing little kickflips?
No, maybe there's a secret
Huh.
skater that does. But you go through the secret door to exit, and the pop-up message is 4 hours and $400 later.
Yeah.
And the custom character I made was a Na'vi who's giant and blue. And so that felt oddly canon. I don't know. But it's the soundtrack. What I was going to say is it's interesting having nostalgia for all these soundtracks, but Thug 1, having not played that, it's like, oh, this soundtrack kind of sucks. Like, I'm sure it's
sure.
exactly as good as all the other ones, but I just have no built-in love for it.
Really
Right.
quick,
Do it
back
otherwise.
to the strippers briefly. Crowboy in the chat says, how did she know that there were strippers in the game?
I'm sure there was some news report on it. I feel like that
okay.
was the Jack Thompson era, right?
It was,
Okay,
yeah, I
yeah.
don't know if you remember the news reporting of that era, Janet, but not a lot was going on in the world back when Thug 1 released. So this was like headline story. They brought out Walter Cronkite. He was talking about it for a while. It was talk of the town.
Yeah. Hard-hitting reporting.
Yeah. So can you give a new ranking? The objective ranking of the Tony Hawk games now?
I don't think I ever could give an objective ranking.
Damn it.
But Thug is higher than I expected. It's having no nostalgia for it. Going back to it, it's like, oh, I do really see the value here. It is a really, really cool campaign and the most grounded of any of them. The most like rags to riches, which is a fun lens for that story. And it's the only one where you drive cars. Every level, there's a car driving mission.
No.
And what I never could have predicted feels kind of good. Decent
of
car
good.
driving controls.
That is weird. I have never touched that one.
Yes, it is. The other note is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 by far the hardest one. It is like the jump from Pro Skater 3, which is you're supposed to beat it 15 times in a row with these different characters, so it's not that hard to beat. But Pro Skater 4, you share objectives with all your characters. So the way they balance that out for like time commitment is making the challenges way, way harder. Some of which are fair, some of which aren't. There's one carnival level where you have to grind around a roller coaster track the whole way. That's the objective. But there are roller coasters on it. And if you hit them, you fall. And so you have to time it between... After one of the roller coasters, you can do it. If you do it before the other roller coaster, it doesn't work. There's one coaster. Two of them are going around. You have to pick the right one and grind around, and you get around at the last and jump off at the last possible second before you hit it in the back.
Perfect.
And it's like, was this intentional? I have no idea if they wanted me to figure that out or if it's just a shoddily designed mission, but that one has been a steep hill to climb trying to 100% these.
Bread writes in over on Patreon to say, hey, which is your favorite hidden character in the Tony Hawk franchise? And is it Shrek? Because it should be Shrek.
Was Shrek in Thug 2?
Shrek's in it?
Shrek is in it, baby. Shrek is Shrek is in Thug 2 along with Space Monkey, Cod Soldier, Phil Margera. Well, that's just fun for everybody. And this has aged well, an Aborigine. I'm sure it's very delicately done.
Jesus.
So that's Thug 2. Thug 1, of course, had Gene Simmons and Iron Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man was in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, you had the Eyeball, Wolverine, Darth Maul, the Doom Guy, which is confusing.
This was the original Fortnite was Tony Hawk. Though.
Apparently 3, yeah, it was wild. Because then also it's like, well, now they're both Microsoft properties, which is weird to think about. But back then, Activision had the rights to Doom. It's confusing. But Leo, do you have an answer for the best?
Yes, firmly. There's a lot of great ones, but Pro Skater 4, I did the same thing I did as a kid, which was mainline to unlocking Django Fett.
Yeah.
Because he has a Django jump jet ability, a special trick is all any ability anybody has is a special trick, but you can do it from an ollie and it launches you 20 feet in the air with your jetpack. And so it becomes this huge advantage to have to get around the level. Like, oh, there's this collectible dollar up there on the roof. I could figure out the line that takes me there, or I could just Django jump jet there. And I was reflecting on how like kid Leo found that and only ever played as that character because they had that special ability. And that felt like finding that kind of specific way through a game that feels unique to me and gives me these advantages that I feel super smart for figuring out. It's like, oh, there's some of that gaming DNA that I still really respond to. There was in that little boy playing Tony Hawk.
Do you feel like then you walked by on the store shelves and saw Bounty Hunter for PS2, that game starring Django Fett, and it's like more tempting because of that love?
Maybe marginally.
Marginally?
I felt like the skateboard was important.
Oh, yeah, there's that whole thing. There's got to be skateboard on Wikipedia. Jeffem, can you get on that? I'm sure it exists. Okay, just to round this out, I thought it was fun to look up. Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, unlockable characters, Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day, and then just a welder. Just a guy in like a welding mask. I guess Isaac Clarke teasing. And then Tony Hawk's Project A-Ted, Jason Lee, the actor, and Travis Barker, the drummer from Blink-182. And then
Jason Lee's a big skater.
That's it. And then Tony Hawk, the remake, recently had an alien, apparently, is the big unlockable thing. But do you have thoughts? Do you think there's any chance Microsoft, now that they own Tony Hawk, which is weird, would make the 3+4? They'd like undo what Activision did, remember? Because they took the team that finished Vicarious Visions, that finished the remake of 1+2, and they're like, okay, you guys you're a Blizzard team now. Work on Diablo. Bada bing, bada boom, which sucks that talent was pulled off and put on that instead of 3+4. But
yeah, I mean, 3+4 would be hard to do because 4 is more of an open world, no 2-minute timers, versus 3 was the last one that did have the 2-minute sessions. Yeah. It would be hard to meld those into one thing, but I could definitely see them doing optimistically in my dreams, I can see them doing a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+, and it's like all these levels, way more levels than were in Pro Skater 3, because throughout Underground and the rest of the ones after, most all of them, there's a classic mode, which is, hey, if you miss the old style of Tony Hawk, that's in here too. It's like there's 8 levels with their own goals that you do 2-minute sessions of, and they're totally super fun. One of the best moments I've had doing this revisit is through Parsec playing co-op split screen classic mode in American Wasteland.
Oh, weird.
Which is like a one-off thing they never did before or after, but split screen Tony Hawk just shredding and hearing the person next to you shred and going, I'll get this collectible, you get that other one, we'll work together on this goal, and like getting faster and faster at it. Awesome experience. And I love that there are that many classic mode levels. I think they really could do more with them. Yeah. Of like, here is a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 with that great skating where they really mastered it. With 1,000 levels.
That'd be sweet. Hey, Kelsey Lewin? Hello, Kelsey?
Hello.
Hey, do you know how this whole thing operates by chance?
Sick kickflips?
Mainly sick kickflips that can be found exclusively at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Help support independent games media. You support us at any tier for the next week, and you get a free code for Oxenfree 2. On Steam. So jump in, everybody. Join the deepest dive. Help support this whole thing. Unlock a benefit. And help us keep climbing up. We greatly appreciate it. Special thank you to some of our biggest supporters. Sarah, I don't mean to fully out you here, but you like a glass of wine every once in a while, right?
I thought you were going to bring it up the fact that I canceled my MinnMax Patreon subscription.
Oh, really?
I thought you were going to be like, Sarah hasn't been a Patreon supporter for at least a couple months.
We need your support now more than ever.
That's right. Don't you want
Instead of calling you an alcoholic, so
Yeah.
It's better. So that's right, Sarah.
Are
wine.
we getting wine?
Oh, we're getting wine.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of First Leaf?
No.
Well, it's a wine delivery service First Leaf, and it is surprisingly easy and cool. Maybe we'll
Are they
even...
delivering to your house?
Yeah, they are, but you're coming over soon for Cream of the
Could
Steam.
you give them my address?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can come over. We're going to do Cream of the Steam on Sunday, the special October Halloween edition, and somebody in the community said we should call it Scream of the Steam, which, yeah, that's good. We should. But I can give you one of these First Leaf bottles of wines because it'll blow your damn wino head open.
To be fair, I just buy my wine at Costco.
Oh, you'll never do
I
that
go for
again.
the highest score with the lowest price. That's how I pick my wines.
No.
math.
That's what First Leaf is for here, Sarah, because you can do a quiz. So it's like right when you go there, it's like, hey, what do you like, red or white? You can choose how many you want of each. You do that, you move
Do you
on.
like red or white?
And then it's like, how sweet do you like your wine? You can adjust that little thing. And then it's like, okay, do you like this flavor? Do you like this flavor? And you're allowed to be an idiot and just say, I don't know. Then they ask you this, how adventurous are you when you look for wine? Are you cautious, a little adventurous, or straight up adventurous, Leo?
A little adventurous.
Well, they got a wine for you as well. And they ask you, hey, where are you on your wine journey? Are you an expert? Are you at the beginning of your journey? And then they say, here, do you like these foods? Do you like almonds? Do you like mushrooms? Do you like key lime pie? Buttered toast? Just like for maybe some flavor samples they're gonna work into your wine. But Sarah, the key to a good ad read is not to wince when we're describing the flavors of the wine.
Sorry.
That's right, everybody. First Leaf. Check it out. They make it easy to get personalized wine delivered on your schedule right to your door. Since it chose the day, since you get to choose the day the shipment comes as well, so you never get stressed about missing a delivery. And every selection is backed by First Leaf's 100% satisfaction guarantee. And they also, it's cool, for each wine that you get, they give you a little like collectible card.
How many wines did you get?
Well, they send 6 at a time. So it's pretty sweet.
Oh
I
my
just
God.
dove into this last night for La Belle France Bordeaux Rouge. But it's got, fun stats on it and the history of the wine and all that fun stuff. So if you're into Pokemon cards, you'll love First Leaf. So give your palate what it really wants with First Leaf. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/MinnMax to sign up. You'll get your first 6 hand-curated bottles for just $45. Take that, Costco. That's tryfirstleaf.com/MinnMax. Obviously, tryfirstleaf.com/MinnMax. Tryfirstleaf.com/MinnMax, everybody. 6 bottles, $45. Beat that. We dare ya. Also, shout out to our friends at I'm 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about A Little to the Left, the vinyl soundtrack to the beloved cute little puzzle game A Little to the Left. You can get the vinyl soundtrack at I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store. The soundtrack's on Tidy Top. How do you pronounce this word? Taupe? Top?
Top?
Top? What does that mean?
Hope?
It's like the color?
Hope?
Oh, wait.
wait,
No,
people
that's
say-
not. Is that how you spell taupe? No, it's not.
It's on Tidy Taupe vinyl, everybody. Music by Justin Carras, so check it out. Album art by Paul G. Hammond, A Little to the Left soundtrack, or you can check out a bunch of other stuff at I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store. Go there.
That
We're
got
getting up
me
to
drunk
is
and
dope.
feeling good.
What's that,
Because
Leo?
that's my bar now. Will that make me drunk?
You'll get drunk by the savings. You can get 10% off of everything at I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store by using the promo code OOPSALLGHOULS. Oops All Ghouls. No space. Jump in there. Find something that's right for you. Help support them because they support MinnMax in a big way. Help support I'm 8-Bit because they're going to be shipping out a prize to the MinnMax community. Whoever has the best community question, submit it over there on Patreon. And this week, of course, because it's a spooky week, they're shipping out Inside on PlayStation. Just a physical version, the I'm 8-Bit exclusive version of Inside will be shipped out thanks to them. All right, Kelsey, ready to go? Should we jump into this stuff?
Oh, yeah. Born ready.
Great. Here we go. Atsigo12 says, hey, Minfolk, when have you felt the most useful in trivia? Like once playing Jackbox, we had to put a bunch of 90s sitcoms in chronological order. Well, I just so happened to grow up in the 90s, so I knocked it out of the park. Oh, what a luxury you're living in, Atsigo.
kid.
Yeah, you truly get those references. Has anybody felt like a superhero in trivia at any point?
Just sitcom trivia specifically. We did How I Met Your Mother trivia at a bar, and we tore it up, and my team won.
Nice.
Nice.
Nicely done. Yeah, there was like, I was in bar trivia competing once, and it was with like, some new girlfriend situation, and it was like with her whole family, and then like video game trivia came up, and I was like, yes, like I can prove that I'm a nerd, but actually get us a couple of points here, and it went just fine.
Yeah, video game trivia is like the that's the obvious answer, I feel like, for all of us. But I went to trivia once where there was an entire round that was just naming baseball stadiums, like who has the sponsorship or what each one is called. And yeah, I knew all of them, and I think we were the only team to get all of them. So
Jesus, nicely done, superhero. I wish there was more dedicated gaming trivia, like gaming trivia night at some brewery or something, but it's always just like Harry Potter trivia or something like that. But I guess that's what Trivia Tower's for, everybody.
You should put it together.
Yeah, actually that would be kind of fun, dude. Live in-person Trivia Tower. I do think it'd be fun.
You can use it to promote the Patreon.
That's it. Joe Kavchinsky writes in and they say, what's your favorite Halloween candy? Would your answer be different if the question was just what's your favorite candy?
Yes.
I think there's something to that. Like specifically you want to fill your little jack-o'-lantern skull with something different. Yeah.
Fun size 100 grand.
100
Really?
grand specifically.
You look like a 100 grand guy, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I was just saying,
you.
I just
Make
got my
fun
Halloween
size.
candy, and I was like, no kid wants to eat a 100 gram bar. Apparently, I'm incorrect.
Since I was a little
Leo is
boy.
that child.
Really?
Yeah. Expensive taste. You
I'm
know?
thinking of like, what I'm excited to dig into in a Halloween thing. And I don't think I'd ever buy this at any other time, but I do like the little Whoppers containers. Just like a
Oh, I hate
couple
it. It's so dry.
pops of Whoppers.
I love Whoppers.
Yeah, you chase it down with some soda, Janet. That's a good evening. Or first leaf
I've
wines.
got probably the hottest candy take here, which is that I love candy corn.
That's
I
acceptable.
like candy corn
That's
too,
acceptable.
and I'm tired of every year we have to have this discussion on whether or not it's good.
Yeah, it is good. Of course
And
it's
I'm
good.
sick and tired of it. It's literally sugar. How could it not be good?
Exactly.
I don't know, and yet here we are.
The
No, I
little
think candy
mellow
corn.
cream pumpkins are even better. Though.
Ooh,
I
that's just a
agree.
bigger version of it.
I disagree. I like the regular candy corn better.
Well, now you're wrong, Kelsey. I'm sorry. You were doing great, but
You were
you're-
doing so, yeah, yeah.
know
I
what
think
happened.
Said it
the
was the hottest take, so
seasonal stuff is always like controversial. Like whether or not are Peeps actually good? Is candy cane good? Like people, I don't know. They exist and they're there to remind you where you are. I guess mine would be probably just Reese's Cups.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
I feel like
Good get.
Almond Joy also gets made fun of by people like me, but I had one a
Is that
couple
the
weeks
coconut
ago.
one?
Actually, pretty good.
Really? I think it's just the branding issues. I feel like 100 grand Almond Joy, they look really boring to kids. So in your brain, you think that the package means that the food tastes bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
Babe
Almond
Ruth,
Joy
the
is
whole guy.
coconut,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I don't want. Yeah, I don't want the coconut.
Kids aren't going to do coconut. That's
Why that? Why do they
that's
draw
an
the line at
acquired
coconut?
taste.
That's like Donkey Kong Country. They love that.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Counterpoint?
Yeah, the counterpoint
great
is
point.
RabidLime writes in, they say, Dear CLCs, when you don't like a food, is it usually due to flavor, texture, how it's prepared? Have a personal grudge against it? I thought
Usually flavor, but texture sometimes can play a role. Like I'm not a flan. Like I don't really like the texture of flan.
I'm the same way.
Sure.
Speaking of sitcoms, what was the idea? Why was that a big part of Sabrina the Teenage Witch? Does anybody else remember that? Was it they loved flan or hated it? Flan was a core component of that show, but I don't
remember actually.
I've watched that show and I don't remember that.
All right, I gotta dig through. I think texture is a biggie. Like all those weirdos out there that hate mushrooms, like there's barely any flavor to hate. It's just you don't like a slightly rubbery
I think
food.
okay,
That's all
no,
that's
no.
going
I
on
think
here.
that's a prepared thing though, because I think there's some like vegetables that if you don't have them prepared in a certain way, you might think you don't like how they taste because that was like it's kind of like because I think mushrooms same deal, but like you can infuse them with any flavor really you want, and I didn't know that until I started cooking with them and realized this is great because it can taste like kind of whatever. It's a flavor sponge.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, you just gotta make it the right way.
I'm reading that in Sabrina the Animated Series there's a character named Chloe Flan, so there's some kind of overarching thematic connection.
Well, that's
here.
what we're talking. I'm looking at it as well, and there's an episode where Sabrina makes flan that's like the size of the gymnasium. It's like a huge flan. But then there's also a picture of Salem the cat. And he's wearing stupid clothes, and he's saying, "I'm wearing pantaloons." And it's reminding me that Salem the cat might be my favorite comedian, actually.
I
He's
love
such a good
Salem.
character.
What a home run of a character. Let's see. Chandler writes in, says, in honor of Halloween, do any of you have any lighthearted childhood trauma? My,
oh God.
my
Okay.
grandma.
I think I was the only one that liked this one.
You did. I'm so
I
curious.
appreciate that they had to add lighthearted in front of it.
Very specific, but they're setting the mood here, Sarah, by saying my grandma would always decorate for Halloween, and some of those decorations scared the crap out of me. That's a good, innocent thing, yeah.
That's one thing I don't get is like, why are we so nonchalant about throwing plastic decapitated heads and
Yes.
like missing limbs in our yards? Like, I've been walking around my neighborhood with poggers. I'm like, why are we so chill about like literal death? You know, like I like when I think of Halloween, I think of like pumpkins and like black cats and like witches, and other people are like, here's a gored body with the intestines are just all over the place and like an axe is coming out of its head
And they add a roundabout to it.
in a roundabout.
It is weird. I'm with you. Like, I don't like gore, but I do like scary Halloween decorations. But even now, like walking around the neighborhood with my kid, I'm like, well, I'm glad he doesn't realize that these are a bunch of giant skeletons crawling out of the ground yet. But I think it's
Right?
cool just for like, one season for we just kind of push death onto every
It's just
street.
weird.
Yeah,
It's just
look.
bizarre.
Look at that skeleton. That's what's inside you.
Right. Jeff, is your kid freaked out by that stuff?
No, but we haven't seen any dismembered bodies yet. There was a giant blow up cat that its head would move back and forth, and I took him over to see that, and he was pretty unimpressed by it, honestly.
Damn it.
Kids these
Yeah.
days,
Yuck.
they have all the horrors on the internet.
Yeah.
I saw a like 12, 15 foot tall skeleton recently
One of the Home
in
Depot
someone's yard.
ones.
No other decorations, just a giant skeleton leaning against their house. It was kind of cool.
It is pretty sweet.
I do love walking around this time of year and seeing people's decorations.
Yeah. I grew up in a very scary place in the woods. My old family's home, and so we would have like Halloween get-togethers, but my dad built like this cabin in the middle of the woods, which is also terrifying. Having to sleep there as a kid, it was the most traumatizing thing in the world. Like, this is the scariest building I could imagine out in the middle of the woods, and I hate it. Anyway, so they used to have Halloween parties up there, and so I'd be like a kid, and it would just be terrifying because it would be like turning your backyard into just a nightmare freak show. And what they would do is they'd put up like black rope along this narrow path to the cabin. So as you're walking up at pitch black, you suddenly be like caught in this giant web from hell. And then also they had a boom box with like a cassette that would just play scary noises, and they'd put that out in the middle of the woods. So just be like people screaming in the woods and stuff as you're caught in
That's
this nightmare
terrifying.
web. Yeah, no kidding. I don't know, I'm traumatized,
So
but just
immersive.
lightly, Chandler. It's okay, Leo. It's okay. Zeth writes in, they say, Zeth Hillman Johnson here. What Patreons do y'all support yourselves? Sarah?
I got this sweater from a Patreon.
Wait, really?
I subscribe to the Mayoko Patreon. She's an artist. You've probably seen her work before. All over Twitter and stuff. Very popular. And she was like, hey, if you subscribe to my Patreon, you can pre-order this sweater for cheaper. And I said, sold.
Sweet.
An absolute deal.
Nice. Hey, sweaters are changing things. I take back everything I said about Jackbox, apparently. For me, I like rotate through some, but the consistents are like Easy Allies, Blank Check, and then it's not really Patreon, but like Empire Magazine. They have like a bonus podcast feed that I pay for their spoiler discussions and stuff. But those are kind of the big three, I guess, that are consistent for me.
For me, going down the list here, it's Jacob Geller,
Of course.
Beanie Tuesday, Ro Ramden, Kyle Bossman, which I added to watch the extended interview with you.
Oh, did you? How was that?
It was really good.
Oh,
It was
fun.
worth it. And the post-show assessments are cool, and I've been watching a lot more delayed input, so I've been letting it ride.
Oh, nice.
And the Flagrant Ones, which is the Hollywood Handbook Patreon. That's a podcast I've gotten absurdly into in the last 2 months, and I'm like going back through their video catalog and doing that through the Patreon.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm on my friend's Nintendo Main podcast is like the name of their show. They've been doing it like forever, so I'm like on that one. My friend Eddie, who came over to ruin Mario Wonder, I'm on his Patreon as well. And then similar to Sarah, I don't remember the name of the artist, unfortunately, but I have joined Patreons for artists before just to get like some of their perks. Like I had one where they were doing like monthly wallpapers, even though it wasn't really monthly, but like a lot of Patreons, it's like, I just like your work and like maybe I do get a thing, but like I'm kind of just there for the vibes. So I joined because I'm like, oh yeah, these are really cool wallpapers and I want to be able to like support this artist. So I find artists have like really cool little either freebies or like I like their extra like or the stores open early or whatever. I think those are like pretty fun. So that's usually I'm rotating through an artist, and then whatever my friends are doing, I try to be on their Patreon too.
Yeah.
Mine are basically all like video game history stuff, and Janet Garcia.
Hey, look at that.
Yay!
Come on.
But
Cool circle.
there's let's see. I mean, obviously the Video Game History Foundation, Gaming Alexandria, Hit Save, Shmuplations, They Create Worlds, Patreon. Like it, you got to watch it. It gets expensive really fast. If you're like throwing $5 to 8 different people, you're like, oh, that's like a whole bill every month. But
Yeah,
it's
people
worth it.
go in and out of mine all the time for sure. It's like a total budget I want to be at, but also supporting people I like and getting cool stuff I like once in a while.
There it is. Travis in Fargo says, hey, I'm DMing a spooky Halloween D&D mini campaign. For one of the battle encounters, I can't decide, Sarah, you're up to bat here, D&D expert. For one of the battle encounters, I can't decide among a gremlin obsessed with biting off fingers, a rotting dragon corpse controlled by a parasite, or a poop mephit. Is this a word from D&D?
I've heard Mephit before.
Mephit?
Yeah.
That's a thing? Okay, so between those three, which way should they go?
That's a really tough choice.
It's tough.
I really like the finger biting gremlin because I just feel like the combat would be really funny if he's just like trying to get your fingies the entire time.
Right.
The parasite dragon would be funny because if you kill the dragon and then the parasite comes out, I would poop my pants. If all of a
Yeah.
sudden they were like, you killed the dragon, but what's this?
But would you need to poop your pants if you have a poop mephit sitting there
Mephit?
as well?
That's the one
Yeah,
that I'm like the
poop's provided.
least sold on because I don't know how that one would work personally. I feel like the other two have good angles.
I like the fingers thing too, because like, do you think it would work out well if someone just had like, I don't know, armored gloves? What are those called? Greaves? What are those?
Oh, you kind of grab it like a catfish.
Gauntlets.
Yeah, gauntlets.
Yeah,
like
you
if you
take your
happen to have
gauntlet and you-
gauntlets.
You catfish it basically.
Yeah. That seems more fun.
It would also is great for people to canonically lose fingers too, and they have to play around that.
That is
Right. How's your D&D going, Leo?
Oh, it's on pause right now.
Oh,
Our DM was a first-time DM, and they were like, "I'm getting really overwhelmed."
It is. It's tough. I would
Very
never do it.
understandable.
yeah. I mean, that has to be so many people's first sessions is trying to be a DM and then just being terrified and realizing like how much time it actually takes to make it good and getting scared away. Like, how do you account for that? That's really tricky.
Is there such a thing as like a paid DM? Like, can someone's job just be being
Yeah,
a
you
really
can.
good DM for like a bunch of campaigns? I feel like
A lot of like small gaming stores will host. They'll have like DMs that you can like basically go with your family and do like a one-off. Or you can like purchase like a campaign and then you just go to like the game store and the DM will DM for like 3 sessions, 4 sessions, like however many you want.
That's cool.
that feels like the way to go. Like, just make it someone's job so that it actually happens, you know?
Yeah. Zachary Sweetrich Funky Thing, they say, since everyone keeps talking about how great October 20th was with both Spider-Man 2 and Mario Brothers releasing, check out how absurd this stretch of games was in November of 2011. Ready? November 1st in 2011 was Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. Then November 8th was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Fine choices. Then November 11th was Skyrim. November 11th was also Lego Harry Potter years 5 through 7. Then November 13th was Mario 3D Land. November 15th was Assassin's Creed Revelations. Also the Halo 1 remake. Also Rayman Origins. Also Saints Row the Third. Also Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And then on the 18th, Minecraft released. And then on the 20th, Skyward Sword released. That was all just in a couple weeks in 2011 for November.
Wow.
Good times. So yeah, it's not the best year for gaming after all.
Especially with hindsight, you know, it must have felt like a lot at the time, not realizing how many of those games would become nothing, would not matter.
Are you saying Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 wasn't an industry game changer? And look,
Oh, right. No, I think I'm getting that mixed up with a different one. Actually, one was
Modern Warfare 3 is such a game changer, they're remaking it. It's coming out again this year, so you stand corrected. Slycut writes in, have you ever fired a real gun before?
No.
No.
I'm afraid of
Once.
guns.
Once, Kelsey?
Yeah, I lived in Texas for 11 years. It was one of those things where it's like, I don't even. My family decided we like had to do this once, and then most of us left Texas. But yeah, I did it once, and I was like, "Yep, don't like guns. I'm good."
Yeah, I'm with you. We're like, I grew up and we had like a 22 for like shooting raccoons, breaking into the chicken coop, yada yada yada. But it was always like, it really freaked me out. I never liked it. I never wanted to be around it anyway. And then for Dan Reichert's bachelor party in Vegas, it was like somebody booked it so that we went and like shot like automatic weapons at like a range and stuff. And I was really dreading it. I was like, God, guns freak me out. I've never liked them growing up and stuff. And then that was a shocking amount of fun. Like shooting the targets with like ridiculous weapons and like having a little handgun and stuff. I was like, okay, there is a sick thrill here that I get in a different way now compared to just back on the farm type of stuff.
Especially shooting at Dan. That must have been really cathartic.
It was. Absolutely. But he dodged us and he got married. Congrats to Dan.
Passed the test.
Jeff, you a gun boy?
No, I'm not a gun boy, but I've shot shotguns on like hunting trips when I was younger.
Yeah.
Never really hit much with them, but it's okay. They're okay to shoot.
When's the last time you shot a shotgun?
15 years ago.
So your dad was a vet who also went on a lot of hunting trips?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm saying
He'd
it's an
shoot
interesting
him and
guy.
then he'd fix him up.
That's an interesting guy. I like it.
No, yeah, he grew up hunting, which was weird because my grandpa was never into it, but it was just a hobby that he kind of, I guess my grandpa liked fishing, so they did a lot of fishing, and then he kind of got into duck hunting and did it very responsibly, and we would always have duck to eat and that kind of thing.
Nice.
But
and you spit out
I'd spit out the what?
I wanted to say buckshot. What do you call it? Shotgun blast?
Yeah, you have to make sure that when you prepare it, that you're taking out the pellets.
Rock salt just seasons it, though.
Great point.
That is
Great
true.
point, Leo.
Great point. And if you freeze ice and shoot them, then they can never tell what killed him.
Diabolical.
Which is important.
This is a bummer of a conversation. Yeah. Hey, Graham Jones writes in, they say, hey, with the anniversary of MinnMax here and all, I'm thinking ahead about plans for the 5th year celebration. I'm wondering if the crew has discussed doing a 2/10s of the first 5 years of MinnMax. I'd love to see how some of the games from the past years stacked up against each other, especially where Baldur's Gate 3 would go.
Still at the top.
Still at the top. That would be intense. That would be
I'd love
tough.
that.
It does kind of seem fun though. Like not next fall or winter, but then like maybe if we have a lull in the release schedule after that, just to stack up the first 5 years against each other. Oh God, that'd be weird. Aging Poorly writes in and says, hello, Kelsey, Sarah, and the rest of y'all. Question largely for Kelsey and Sarah. This was so oddly specific. They say, both of you first came on MinnMax for the Animal Crossing Deepest Dive. Is that right? That was the first thing for both of you?
Yep.
When pitching Sarah and Kelsey to the MinnMax community during the MinnFax episode, which was the precursor to Party Chat, in early March of 2020, Ben had this to say about Sarah. She is nutso about Animal Crossing. You could not have a more informed person. And then about Kelsey, he said, when it comes to history, like she might be the smartest person I've ever met when it comes to video games. Like she'd be the greatest back-of-the-box player in the universe. And about both of you, this is the part I get nervous about. They don't know each other. So like, how do you introduce these people? How do you get the energy up for these people that don't know each other? So my question to Kelsey and Sarah, what do you remember about that first appearance on MinnMax? Enjoyable or stressful?
I feel like it was enjoyable. I feel like Kelsey and I have a lot in common, and I feel like we clicked really pretty immediately. Although, like, when I found out that, like, Kelsey was going to be on, because Kelsey knows more about Animal Crossing than I even do. So she's the one that knows more, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to be on with Kelsey, like, with the person who literally runs, like, video game history and, like, has a video game store, and, like, I don't know if I knew you were writing a book about Animal Crossing then, but I was like, what the heck? Am I being set up?
Yeah, I was ready to just like fact check you across
on every single Animal Crossing game.
I was ready to take you down. No, I also just remember like hitting it off really quickly and being like, oh, this is a really cool group. I like all these people. This is great. I don't know. I have nothing bad to say. I was a little nervous because I sort of infamously didn't like New Horizons that much. And I was very nervous to start expressing that opinion to the world, thinking I'd get eaten alive. And maybe I was, but I don't know. I think you guys all took it fine.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you're
It
fine.
deserved this criticism.
Yeah, it's the Animal Crossing crowd. I'd like to see him eat somebody alive. Philly Eatsteak writes in, hey, MinnMax, which are cuter, regular pandas or red pandas?
Red pandas. Is that even a competition?
Yeah, I think regular pandas. I think we all just think red pandas are cuter because they feel newer.
No, red pandas are
culturally.
cuter.
Sarah said red panda.
Regular
I know.
pandas can't
Red
even
pandas.
survive.
Well, are red pandas prolific in procreating?
Yes. More so
Really?
than normal pandas.
Well, anything's
Yeah.
more so than a regular panda. I think you're
I'll take a
forgetting
regular
how cute.
panda. I feel like a red panda. A lot of things look like a red panda. I feel
Oh
like a
God,
panda
this
only
is what
looks like.
destroys MinnMax.
I feel like a panda. I guess pandas kind of remind me of Snorlax in a sense. So
I'm
it's like
shocked.
they're kind of big and
Yeah.
they have like I don't know, like a red panda. It's like you could be a raccoon if I took my glasses off.
Yes,
like, that's not that
Janet,
interesting.
I am totally with you. Yeah, the panda, and looking at a panda's eyes, like the shape of their eyes, they kind of have like Eeyore sad patterns in their eyes. Like there's more heart in a panda, heart and soul and sexual
I'm
inactivity.
sorry. I think I just factually know too much about pandas. They literally roll over their kids and kill them frequently.
Oh, who doesn't?
Pandas are really dumb.
I mean, a lot of people have made that mistake.
I'm sure red pandas eat
Who
their
of us
young.
hasn't rolled over a child?
Red pandas, I mean, they're cool looking, there's no doubt. But yeah, they seem more just kind of like a rat that's going to bite you. Whereas a panda bear, you just want to go pet, you know?
Also, like they have like this kind of emo
Have you
eye
seen like
makeup
the red
look to
panda
the
like
regular
stand up
pandas.
though? Have you seen them like get up on their hind legs and like
I'm looking at that right now, and it's adorable.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is
panda
really
couldn't
cute.
even
It
do
is
that
very
because
cute.
it's too fat and useless.
You're saying that if I Google panda standing up, by the way, I
Red
guess
panda standing.
Just red panda.
well, I'm Googling both
And have
standing
you seen
up.
a Gretzko? Can regular
Yeah, that's true.
pandas do that?
Do a what?
Karaoke,
Gretzko?
metal karaoke.
No.
Sing, I don't know.
Oh
whatever.
yeah. Oh yeah. I got you. It took me a second.
I think all these pandas standing up are cute, Sarah. I don't think you should besmirch the good name of a good, regular, old-fashioned American panda.
No,
say,
I don't think
don't
Sarah's
Pandas just look
besmirching
like
pandas.
bears though?
A
I
cute
will
bear.
besmirch them. If you
Oh,
push
they're like
me.
bears, but they're tuxedo-y bears, and they got the black, and they got the white. They got they're
Oh,
kinda,
so red pandas
thick.
can't just be like red raccoons? Somehow that's too much?
Yeah, they're gross. They're gross.
Pandas are ass. Red pandas are a lot better.
Thank you, Leah.
They remind me of cats, which I'm biased towards. They're like little cats that climb around in trees in nature.
Yeah, I see how it goes. All right, we'll have a Twitter poll to settle this once and for all.
Yeah, I definitely think the red pandas are gonna win. I think they're the more popular choice, but I'm sticking with regular.
we go.
Regular.
Did you know that pandas
It-
have to eat so much bamboo? All they do is eat bamboo all day, and they only have the energy to like eat bamboo and then like roll over on their children.
Red-
But the rolling
because
over
they're
is the-
technically
okay.
marsupials who don't have pouches because they're that dumb.
Their only form of recreation is rolling over their children.
You're,
and killing
yeah, you're getting really hung up on the children specifically, okay?
But when
Like-
their babies sneeze and it surprises the panda, that's hilarious.
Yeah, come on.
Trash.
Yeah, look, red pandas, they eat a bunch of insects and birds. That's trash.
At least they move. At least they can physically move.
But it's like if
At
you
least they
Google
don't
them,
need help to
That's kind of
fornicate.
nice, though.
You don't
It's
have
like
to like
they're all-
lift them up.
All right, look. This isn't which ones you want to help reproduce more. It's which one like is better to look at or like you like looking at more.
Yeah, red pandas.
Yeah,
when
but
you're helping them reproduce.
yes.
I try to look at them when I want to reproduce.
BBAT, and I apologize for the self-serving question. BBAT writes in to say, you all were just on IGN Daily Fix for the interview MinnMax did with Bruce Nesmith from Bethesda. I love the interview because it felt like a window into the game development world for those of us who have no experience in it. No question, just wanted to say thanks and keep the interviews coming. Thank you, BBAT. Yeah, we had an interview.
You want to pat yourself on the back for that, Ben? Did you want you all? It was just you? Would you want to give yourself some pats?
I
there?
either
proud of
talk
that.
about this interview in the plug section or I let BBAT talk about it for me. So I figured this is a maybe more natural
Someone asked
way.
a question and they said, I think Ben is really awesome and cool and gives the best interviews. Wow, thank you
that.
so much for writing in.
Sarah, do you want to hear the most blowhardy thing I've ever thought in my life? Or like the most
What?
obnoxious
Was
thing?
it what you just did?
B-Bat wrote in. I talked about it here in the plug.
I've never met this B-Bat.
What does the B stand for? That's
Ben.
I will say the funny thing too is like these are never in the thumbs up questions either, so we never know. when
Yeah,
they're
I didn't
coming.
even see this question.
Well, you gotta be surprised by some things in community
Okay, what's
questions.
what's
everybody.
the self-serving thing? Because I want to know.
Yeah, this will go well. I'm moving on to Victor Garcia.
No, come on.
what was the
Come
blowhard
on.
thing? Come on.
I'm
let's hear it.
not
Don't be that
going to say it because I'm going to get
Oh, man.
lit.
No.
God.
This is
All
worse.
right.
Yeah, it is worse.
Everybody grovel to Ben. Say you're sorry.
Okay, I hate all this. I hate this. I hate this.
Sorry.
No,
Guys, Dad's mad.
genuinely, I was thinking. So I'm proud of that Bethesda interview. It's with a Bethesda old timer. He was there since 1995, and he retired, so he is up for talking type of thing. So it was just like that perfect sniper shot of like, this is the type of interview I want more at MinnMax. And so it was really interesting hearing his insight. He was a lead designer on Skyrim and talking about Starfield and a bunch of wild stuff. But the obnoxious thought that I had recently was like, it was like a couple weeks ago, I was thinking, like, what goals do I have for myself professionally? It's like, okay, grow MinnMax, got it. But it's like, is there something more tangible? I'm sorry, I hate saying this. I had a thought. Bro.
Sell MinnMax.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. No, but I was thinking for goals, like it'd be cool to be like, not an official thing, but like if you think of like the best interviewer in the games industry, it's like, it'd be cool to lock down that slot for like an entire medium. And it's like every once in a while you'd see comments like, oh, Ben's a pretty good interviewer for game developers. It's like, maybe I could be
piece
known.
of the puzzle falls into place. No, I feel you. I
No,
feel
it's like it'd be nice to be known. It's like it's just, if there's a go-to interviewer instead of like, James Lipton for
you want to be like the Jason
actors.
Schreier of interviewing specifically, like how Jason has that for journal. I feel like
Sure,
kinda has
I
that
guess
for
so.
journalism.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. And then the obnoxious
not that
part.
interviewing is in journalism, but you get what
I don't know what it is.
You get what I mean.
Yeah, sure. But no, then there was like a Reddit thread about this interview, and there was like one of the early comments was like, Ben is the best interviewer in the games industry. And it's like okay, I got it for one person.
You
in
got
the Reddit
it.
Well,
thread.
okay, wait. Hold
Yeah,
on, though.
yeah.
I got you, Ben.
It was from B-Bat.
I vibe with the vision. All
Thank
you
you.
really have to do if you want this is to start adding it to like your kind of tagline. Like, this is what I've learned, like being in this media. All you have to do
Right.
is say a thing and then it's true. Like,
himself
Andrew
the
Renee,
best.
busiest woman in the games industry. Like, boom, that's her thing. That's her thing. Like, is it true? We could debate it, but it's her thing.
Sure.
Jill Grote, Indie Informer. She is the Indie Informer because she's the Indie Informer. Like, what do
Right,
you mean?
right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Like Tim Geddes, 30, like, okay, you can just add it in. The branding will catch on, and it'll be like, oh yeah, Ben Hansen, best interviewer in the game. Yeah, like
Janet,
I'll just start saying.
Or
it.
if you don't want to title yourself best, go nosiest.
Biggest weirdo who asks too many questions. Janet, this is why I appreciate your hustle. Do you feel like you'd be capable of doing that type of thing? Of like, all right, I've come up with a branding for myself, and I'm just going to be comfortable laying it out there for the sake of a career.
I mean, I could if I like wanted to. I don't feel the desire to have a thing. Like, I think I do so many things that I don't think I really want to be seen as any specific thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do the joke either for myself or for shows I'm on, like your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster, because it's funny, but that I don't have like a brand right now.
Right.
But,
Okay.
I'm barely getting going. Well, we got time to grow.
Sure.
Would you instead write your own fictional letters saying that you're the best about something else?
God damn it.
Hey, whatever puts asses in the seats. You know what I mean? Like, the game is the game.
That's
all
right.
I
But
did want to ask about that interview though. Do you feel like it's just the names you get, or just random which ones get picked up and posted everywhere like this? Or do you think there is like a growing sense of, let's keep an eye on MinnMax, their interviews usually have juicy
I
nuggets?
hope so. And I think it's also like, we share a lot of clips and stuff.
The clips help, I think.
Yeah, I think the clips help for like certain people retweeting those and sharing those. And so I think there's some like, news Twitter people that they'll retweet some of like the juicier clips, and then that gets it into the eyeballs of press people, and then it gets picked up. Because like the nice thing is, this interview was picked up, like multiple different parts of this interview was picked up by like every gaming site. And this isn't me complaining. I get it. It's just, I think it's fascinating to see that like we lucked out, hit the jackpot interview wise, and that interview was picked up 6 ways to Sunday, every single site, yada, yada, yada. And according to YouTube, that interview has made us $22.75, which is why we're very thankful for
man.
Patreon
Treat
for
yourself
supporting
to
this.
more
To a
bucks
sweet
than
treat, Ben.
Hey, thanks, Sarah.
Don't spend all in one place. Thank God you're in the Midwest. But here's a one last question. Do you know when something will like pop or be a breakout, like in terms of like a question? Because like one time I've like I don't do a lot of interviews, but like one time I wrote something and I'm like, if people see this, they're gonna run with it because it's like interesting.
Sure.
Like, do you kind of know like in the moment, like this is what's going to be like broken out, or were you kind of surprised by like what people pulled really from it?
Yeah, it is fun to see because sometimes it like reframes things. It's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Like, there was a quote where he talked about how Elder Scrolls 6, like it was announced so early because the community had pitchchforks and torches, yada, yada, yada. But he's like, yeah, you won't hear about it again until 6 months until release. And like there was an article early on, like at IGN, that was the headline. I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that for a pullout. Or, it was pretty early on. Like I had it as like a Twitter clip, but then, he talked about the progression system in the Elder Scrolls 6 and how it's just gonna be an evolution of Skyrim's, and talking about what's gonna be there for sure and what's not and all that stuff. And I saw like another site immediately picked up like progression in Elder Scrolls 6. I was like, oh, of course, I should have made a pullout of that on YouTube. Like, I don't know why I'm so stupid. The chunk of him talking about Elder Scrolls 6 probably was a safe bet. So yeah, it is fun to be surprised by that. But like, yeah, that interview came about because like I heard Todd Howard in another interview reference the sci-fi game 10th Planet that Bethesda tried making years and years ago that was canceled or whatever. And so that was the entire thing. I was like, oh, if I could get an interview where someone's talking about that, I feel like people would pick up on that. And so that was the whole crux for reaching out to this guy. And then I feel like there was one site that maybe wrote up that whole part about 10th Planet and how it was like Bethesda's game that was written by the writer of Independence Day, which is weird. But it's like, yeah, that turns out that wasn't the start of the show compared to everything else. But Sarah, enough of this self-aggrandizing nonsense.
I need to know if you have a list of like the oldest people in the gaming industry that you think are going to retire.
Just, like,
with
watching
like the
people
age
retire.
clock going up, like,
Yes.
and you just check in on them. Like once they hit 65, you're like, are you done yet?
Yes.
Are you done
you
retire yet? Are you done yet? That's what I assume. You just have like a hit list of people.
Yeah.
I do, absolutely. I checked LinkedIn a lot for like, is this person still at that studio? Okay, they are. So okay, probably aren't.
He's basically
open
Uma
for that.
Thurman
Wow.
in Kill Bill.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
The Uma Thurman of games media.
Why does that catch on? Victor Garcia writes in. They say, hey everyone, 2-part question. If there was a MinnMax restaurant and each of you had a meal/dish named after you, what would come with yours? It can be any type of food. All right, MinnMax restaurant. Pitch it fast. What's your dish?
Maybe I'd have mac and cheese in there. I don't know.
Mac
it's
and
tough,
cheese,
'cause
sure.
It's like, I don't know if I want to make like, if I'm making a cohesive meal, I guess I'd have to probably go like burger, maybe like some type of spicy fry. Like I really like those Shake Shack fries with a little spicy like
fries.
flakes on it.
All
Yeah,
right, that's good.
And then like definitely a beer. Like I really like beer, so I think that'd be in there. Like, so that's kind of what I'm leaning on. And I really like
Okay.
mac and cheese, but you can't really put that on the side of a burger. You could like do a weird infusion thing, but that's like, that gets kind of messy. It's hard to pull off. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm kind of like the ketchup guy, so I would do like a bowl
Yeah.
of ketchup with
Yeah.
20 French fry spoons.
That's how I do it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Spoons like specifically designed
fries.
to spoon fries.
To eat
Yes.
them.
Eat the spoon, then the handle.
Perfect.
I'd probably be pizza.
You don't need to be defeated with that, Jeff. You can hold your head up high. That's good.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm happy to be a pizza.
Yeah. And then you can put Leo Vader's ketchup on Jeffem's pizza, and it's the
Okay.
perfect meal.
TMI.
No.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. What do y'all like for a question of the week? Obviously, the Panda Showdown.
The panda was pretty big.
I like the one about Patreon. Which Patreons we support? Halloween candy.
The trauma was cool.
Trauma's cool. Trauma's cool. There's no doubt. What do y'all like?
I feel like I learned the most from pandas.
I did
Yeah.
too.
Can we take a vote though? I feel I'm resolved on that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
On the
so
red pandas version.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hands up if it's regular pandas are cuter. Let the record show.
I always,
Janet
whenever I
and
agree with
I.
Ben, like you ever just get that sinking
Yeah,
feeling,
you
Ben?
do.
Like,
You
I
did.
didn't-
Felt it,
wow.
For
didn't you?
standing
You
up
feel
for
that
a
for me?
panda being cute.
It's like when it's just us two. If it's you, me, and someone else, all good. When it's just you and me, don't you ever feel like we have the same affliction? Like I just get that.
I'm just saying,
know
you
what
look
I
at
mean?
box
Like,
office results for
read into
Kung
that.
Fu Panda versus Pixar's Reds. Need we say more?
Pixar Red, she's a red panda.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why it's called.
Okay.
Oh, you
That's,
mean Kung
that's my
Fu Panda,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, I bet Kung Fu Panda made more. That was my point. But I'm gonna have a heart attack from Sarah screaming. So.
I thought you were like trying to allude
funny,
that
the
the
only-
Pixar Red was a panda.
Open.
Yes, Kelsey, of course. I mean, we all agree Red was a much better movie than Kung Fu Panda.
Remember
but-
when WWF had to become WWE or vice versa because of the pandas? Like
Right.
that was a core moment in all of our
That's
lives.
true.
That's why they're better, because they made the name of the wrestling guys better.
Exactly.
I think I just have a lot of like bitter feelings towards pandas because when I was younger, I really liked pandas and I like wanted to save them. That was like my thing was I was going to go to China and I was going to save the pandas. And then I grew up and I realized they just weren't f***ing. And like I felt so betrayed. These are useless animals.
As a kid, guess what they do?
Rabbit.
Yeah.
All right, congratulations, Philly Eat Steak. You just won the Panda Prize for My 8-Bit. Congratulations.
And I'm assuming we all were going to go Red Panda. Was anybody going to abstain?
Yeah, was it 4-2?
Oh, is it? Hang on.
guess
Yeah.
it is
Okay,
4-2,
Red
yeah.
Panda people, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let the record show no one's raising their hand for audio listeners. It seems like everyone's turning their back on the Red Panda.
Gets you.
They've rolled on their young. Now it's time for something we call Get a Load of This. All right. Hey, get a load of this. Axios has an article, which is just a poll apparently from Emerson College. But it's, do you consider yourself to live in the Midwest? And then it's percentage of people in states that consider themselves living in the Midwest. So Minnesota is 96.5% consider themselves living in the Midwest. Apparently Iowa's the highest at 96.7. But the part that gets confusing, Idaho, 25.2% of people in Idaho consider themselves living in the Midwest, which is confusing. This Tennessee, 9.7 people. It's like, that's odd. Tennessee and Idaho. What is going on? Pennsylvania, 9.4% of people apparently.
What is Idaho in terms of like what would you call it?
That's a West. That's a West as it
What?
comes.
Really?
Idaho, you don't consider the West?
As
not-
west
Hold on.
as it
Let me pull up a map. Give me a second.
Is that your geographical
I can't think of a
final
more
answer?
Western state than Idaho. I'm going off the Louisiana Purchase. I don't know what you guys are going off of. I don't know. Look, there's a link below if you want to check out this
I'm
whole
more
map.
surprised by 3% of
Oh, yeah, I mean, I
Minnesotans
guess
saying no.
I guess it is
They
more
are.
west than I thought it was.
That's more west.
feels like
than-
Midwest,
than
though.
any of us were thinking.
Yeah.
I've heard some people say like rather than Midwest, they say like Rust Belt, and like they consider that something different. And I don't know, maybe that's what that 3%.
That's more
is what I'm
southern.
getting
People
at.
also refer to like Minnesota as like a Great Lake state, which is what I prefer to refer to it as. Is like
Yeah.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. All of those states are all Great Lake states because it's like I don't know if I feel necessarily kinship with my brethrens in like Indiana. You know.
Yep. I like the North thing. I feel like it started
Indiana
with,
getting thrown under the bus.
Yeah. But I feel like with Game of Thrones, maybe talking about the North became cooler again. Because I feel like it's within the last 10 years, I feel like some people saying, we're not Midwest, we're the North. And it's like, yeah.
And
that
like
is
when
better.
the water wars
if
start,
the North
we are
will
going to
rise
have a lot
again?
of power. Yeah, I mean when the water wars start and Californians start clamoring,
Yeah.
and Texans start clamoring to our great state,
You need us. Anyways, that's just
King
one
of the
get a load
North
of
is
this.
what you will call us.
Get a load of this. On TikTok, this is from the user Detroit Villain. They clipped out a clip from Spider-Man 2, and the text they put was, "Bro, these NPCs aren't NPCs," and it's just a conversation between two NPCs. That's like a really genuine, long, detailed conversation about like one of them is working as like a babysitter, and the other one's like, "Man, like I got the job. I don't really have the background." They're like, "No one has the background unless you had like a bunch of siblings, you know, growing up. Like you're not gonna have." And they go on for like a really long time, and I just think it's a fun little like positive nod to the writing that goes into the game, especially like the more, for lack of a better term, throwaway stuff that you might not really like think about, or like maybe no one will really notice. So like having someone really soak in that moment and appreciate it and having it like be good was, I don't know, it's kind of cool. So
Yeah.
that's my get a load of this.
Love it.
It's just so funny that they're standing there with like their baby bassinets and like Spider-Man is like right next to them.
Yes.
And they're like, yeah, I just don't know how to like not kill this baby. And I'm like, Spider-Man is right there. Like, he's right there.
Get a load of this. This is a video from Benetori 4 on YouTube, and it's called "Ban Stopping Shows to Help Fans and Incomplete History." And it's just 20 minutes of clips of just that, like whether it's fights or people, you know, getting crushed in mosh pits or whatever, but it's just a ton of different examples of, you know, band members stopping their music and like yelling at security and things to kind of address whatever the situation is. And he has a lot of detailed notes about the incident and what happened afterwards and whatnot. And one of the highlights is Billy Joel was doing a series of concerts in Russia, and during the show they would shine the spotlight onto audience members. But he realized as they were doing it over the course of the nights that there were a lot of plainclothes like Russian officers in the audience that would use that to target those people and kick them out for like having too much fun or breaking Soviet laws or whatever. And so during the performance, he starts screaming like, don't shine the spotlight on the audience, and gets progressively more mad until he just like knocks over his piano and like just starts trashing the stage. And they have a whole clip of him doing an interview afterwards. And it was just a very funny moment in an otherwise like very strangely affecting video to like see all of these bands really, really care about safety in a way that you might not expect.
Yeah, that's cool. Links below for all these fun things.
Get a load of this. This is kind of old news, but I don't know exactly when it actually wrapped up, which I assume was kind of recently. But there is like a Hatsune Miku Pokemon collaboration.
Damn it, Kelsey! That was literally mine. Yes.
Now we won't get to talk about it.
I'm so sorry. It's adorable. All of the like. There's a different design for all of the different Pokemon types, and a bunch of like new songs and everything, and they're so good. They're all so good, and I want there to be more than just pictures of these like Hatsune Miku as different Pokemon trainers. Like they should make figures or something. I don't know. 'Cause they're really good.
I just can't believe they're gonna make 18 songs because they made 18 Hatsune Miku Pokemon trainers, one for each type. And then they're going to make 18 songs, and 4 of them are already out. And they've been coming out since the beginning of September to like October. And it's like 18, and they're all Pokemon related. So if you listen to any of these Hatsune Miku songs, they all have like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like they all have like little Pokemon riffs in them. And there's this one song by like Deco27 that like references all of Pikachu's moves called like Volt Tackle. And like the entire song is just like sprinkled with like different Pokemon moves in a way to like make it make sense. Anyways, it's a very cool project between the Pokemon Company and Hatsune Miku.
That's cool.
Hail Whip is actually useful. Get a load of this. My dear friend Blake Hester provided some supplemental reading for my Tony Hawk talk. He did a comprehensive oral history on Thug 1, Tony Hawk's Underground, from busted teeth to broken TVs. The oral history of Tony Hawk's Underground. And I reread it this morning. It's fantastic. And there's lots of fun little tidbits and a good taste of what it was like to work on those games in their heyday. They talk about being like Neversoft under Activision at a time they were making a full third of Activision's money. So they were like so let loose and using that to come up with new ideas. Like they could have been way more repetitive than they were. Remember those games coming out every year and remarkably having new stuff in them.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Hey, Sarah, I could supply you one since Kelsey stole it from you.
No, I'm still claiming that one.
Oh, okay. Well, then, or Kelsey, I could supply you one since Sarah claims that other one.
We can share it.
No, but the point is, I wanted to throw a plug out for Jenna Stieber. She has a new podcast. I'm going to plug called Big Game Hunger. Jenna Stieber, who has helped us out in a big way during paternity leave and all that stuff, and has popped up since then. But Big Game Hunger is her new podcast where they pitch a game and design it. And Janet, you were on the first episode, right?
Yeah, it was super fun.
Hell yeah.
It is like she rolls like for the keywords. It's basically you get like I think a genre and then just like a general like keyword or something, and then you also get to add to that word list as a guest. So like I tossed in something as well. Yeah, it was really fun. You know, dug into just conceiving of what something could be. It's kind of like all the fun of. To me, the favorite thing is like planning stuff out, like actually doing the work. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna get to that, but like talking about it and like laying it all out there is the best part, and that's basically just what the show is. That's
sweet. Did you pull one from the community, Jeffem?
Absolutely. Get a load of this. This one is from Moggs, and it's a new Game Boy Color game called Frasier Fantasy, which mixes Final Fantasy and Frasier, where you play as Frasier, and apparently he's trying to have a dinner party by himself, it sounds like, because he has some silverware that he's really into, and he has to clear out the apartment and do lots of Frasier things with a lot of, Frasier memes in there.
Yeah.
So,
nice. Speaking of Frasier memes,
you can play it right on itch.io.
Oh,
itch.io. Or I guess it works on like the super analog, Game Boy emulators as well. So
Yeah, and look forward to our episode of Max Spoilers. We're going to be covering all of Frasier's new season on Paramount Plus. We're all champing at the bit. Every commercial I see for that, I'm just always like, what? I like Frasier, but this don't feel right, everybody. Anyways, hey, that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, everybody. A special shout out to everybody in the Seattle area who came to the community meetup on Sunday at Petoskey's with Kelsey and I. Kelsey, what do you think about that whole thing in retrospect?
It was great. Honestly, it went like about as well as I could have imagined. I wasn't 100% sure what to expect, but it was great. Yeah,
everybody, I mean, people were driving up from Portland. A couple came up from Salt Lake City. Yeah, the turnout was slightly higher, I think, than like the Minneapolis meetups, which really surprised me. And everyone was so sweet. And everyone just had like a different thing they wanted to talk about. You know, like one guy, he's like, hey, I made a bunch of really popular games in Dreams, and now I'm taking that idea and making a game that I'm launching separately on Steam. But he's like, but I got my start in all this because I heard you and Jeff talking about Dreams. Like, you didn't know what it was until we talked about it on the podcast. It's like just a bunch of, everybody had their own little story like that. That was really sweet. So thanks to everybody who came out. Thanks to everybody who supports us on Patreon and let us hit our 4th anniversary in general. Greatly appreciate it. If you're a $5 supporter, you can find in that podcast feed something called the Actual Meetings That Form MinnMax, which is an hour and a half of literally the earliest meetings we had about MinnMax. We recorded all of them, and they're available in that bonus podcast feed if you're a supporter. And if you support us at any tier through November 1st, you automatically get a Steam code for Oxenfree 2. So jump in there. It's a great time to jump in and help support independent games media and help support a game like Oxenfree 2. Thank you to everybody at the Game Champion tier. Joshua Ayers, the champion of Neo, The World Ends With You. Patrick Polk, the champion of Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Thank you, everybody, for jumping into that tier. And thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Jeffem. Thank you, Kelsey, everybody. That's it. Big episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for supporting MinnMax for 4 years, everybody. Be good. Have fun. Let's go.